It is a pleasure to accompany you on this journey into such deep and tranquil reflections. I hope this story offers you moments of profound serenity and insight. Let your mind be guided into a world of peace and contemplation as we begin. The world outside these walls is a place of endless motion, a clamor of shouting merchants, the relentless clatter of iron-rimmed wheels on cobblestone, and the desperate hurried breathing of a society always running toward a tomorrow it can barely define. But here, within the heart of an Austrian abbey in the year 1720, time has been anchored. It does not flow, it gathers, pooling in the corners of vaulted ceilings and resting heavily upon the worn flagstones. If you could step through the threshold of this sanctuary, you will feel the weight of the air change instantly. It is cooler here, deeper and profoundly still. The only rhythm that matters is the beating of your own heart, finally synchronized with the slow, deliberate pulse of a life dedicated to the unseen. You'll find yourself in the laundry cell, a place that exists in the periphery of history, a hidden sanctum of order and purity. The room is vast, constructed from stone that feels as permanent as the mountains cradling this valley. Above, the ceiling arches into exquisite ribbed vaults, architectural lungs that seem to inhale the silence of the afternoon. High, narrow windows, the clerestory, act as celestial apertures. Through them, the afternoon sun descends in slanted golden beams of singular intensity. These rays do not merely light the room, they illuminate the very atmosphere, revealing a slow, swirling dance of dust motes that drift like golden embers in a vacuum. Where these beams strike the floor, they paint long, tapering shadows that stretch across the stone like fingers of time, marking the passing of an hour that holds no appointments and demands no haste. In the center of this golden stillness stands a lay brother. His identity is stripped away by his simple coarse wool habit, the color of rich, dark earth, yet there is a quiet sovereignty in his posture. Before him lies the expanse of a heavy oak table, a surface polished by generations of use until it reflects the light like a dark steel pool. Spread across this table is a landscape of white linen sheets, vast and crisp, which have spent the better part of the morning suspended in the wild, thin air of the Alps. They have been kissed by the high-altitude sun and buffeted by winds that have traveled across silent glaciers. As the brother reaches out to begin his work, the air in the room shifts. The scent arrives before the motion, a clean, sharp, intoxicating aroma of sun-bleached fibers mingled with the faint, haunting sweetness of lavender. Dried blossoms were tucked into the weave of the fabric when it was brought in from the drying lines, and now, as the linen is handled, the fragrance blooms anew. It is the scent of absolute cleanliness, the smell of a world washed of its sins and its stains. He catches the corner of a sheet, and as he lifts it, the fabric billows for a heartbeat. It is not mere cloth, but a sail catching a phantom wind, snapping softly as it crests in the air. He does not rush. To rush would be to shatter the sanctity of the moment. He brings the corners together with a surgical, almost reverent precision. The fabric is thick, heavy, and satisfyingly cool, a stark contrast to the warmth of the sun-drenched stone beneath his feet. With each movement, the linen makes a sound, a soft, rhythmic whisper, like the rustle of autumn leaves on a forest floor. It is a sound that demands you listen, that pulls you away from the chaotic noise of your own mind and anchors you here, in the texture of the cloth, in the geometry of the fold, and in the profound aching beauty of a task performed for no one but God and the silence itself. He presses his palms against the surface, smoothing out a stray ripple, his touch lingering. The sheet is yielding, becoming smaller, firmer, and more perfect with every pass of his hands. He is not just folding laundry, he is crafting order from the chaos of the day, smoothing out the wrinkles of existence until all that remains is the white, fragrant stillness of the present. The shadows stretch another inch. The mountain air hums outside, but inside the world has narrowed down to this: the scent of lavender, the texture of the linen, and the slow deliberate grace of a man at peace with the quiet. The lay brother's hands are instruments of a long practiced devotion, their skin calloused and deeply lined, mapping a lifetime of manual labor that has served the abbey's needs for decades. He is a man of few words, and in this quiet chamber, words are unnecessary. The language here is spoken in the shift of weight, the tension of linen, and the precise alignment of seams. He stands in the heart of the golden light, a figure anchored by gravity and faith. Every fold he makes is a testament to the idea that small repetitive tasks are the architecture of a holy life. He knows the weight of these sheets, the way they hold the memory of the morning sun, and he treats them with the deference one might show a sacred relic. As he unfolds a new section of the heavy fabric, the air around him seems to thicken with the scent of lavender, a soothing perfume that permeates the coarse weave of the cloth. He pulls the fabric taut, creating a sharp line that divides the shadow from the light. There is a palpable tension in the linen, a resistance that he greets with a gentle, patient force. He is not fighting the cloth, he is conversing with it. He guides the edges together, his movements flowing with the efficiency of water moving around a stone. His palms are steady, broad, and warm, acting as a natural iron as he presses them down along the length of the folded sheet. The sound is hypnotic, a dry, crisp, sliding noise that punctuates the silence, recurring with a clockwork regularity. It is the heartbeat of the laundry cell, a rhythmic pulse that seems to echo off the vaulted stone ceiling, transforming the room into a resonator for the simple sounds of human industry. Outside in the wider world, the afternoon shadows are beginning their long, slow migration across the monastery grounds. The mountain air, which had been so vibrant and bright at midday, now carries a faint, cool sharpness, a reminder of the proximity of the glaciers that cradle this valley in their icy arms. But inside the cell, the temperature remains consistent, protected by the massive, thick walls that have withstood centuries of Alpine winters. The brother pauses, his hands resting for a moment on a folded fabric. He looks up toward the high clerestory windows. The light has shifted from a brilliant, blinding gold to a softer, warmer amber hue, casting deep, elongated shadows that stretch across the flagstone floor like long-lost memories. There is a sense of timelessness here that defies the ticking of a clock. In 1720, the concept of time is tied to the sun, the bells, and the internal rhythm of the monastic day. The brother does not worry about how long the task takes. He knows that the work will be finished when it is finished and not a moment sooner. This surrender to the pace of the day is perhaps the most radical act in a world that is beginning to industrialize and accelerate. Here, he is an island of stillness. He lifts the next piece of linen, shaking it out with a controlled snap of his wrists. The fabric billows like a cloud caught in a sudden breeze, floating momentarily in the air before descending back onto the oak table in a graceful undulating motion. The linen is heavy, woven from flax grown in the monastery's own fields, harvested by the brothers, spun on wheels, and loomed with immense effort. It is a material that demands respect. It carries the history of the seasons, the rain that fell in April, the heat of the July sun, and the careful stewardship of the monks who tended the soil. As he folds, the brother is aware of this lineage. He is merely the final steward, the one who brings the process to its quiet conclusion. He aligns the corners with surgical accuracy, his breath slow and synchronized with his movements. There is no anxiety here, no sense of urgency. The abbey is silent, and in that silence he finds a profound liberty. His thoughts are not darting to future burdens or past regrets. They are fully occupied by the physical reality of the linen in his hands, the friction of the fabric against the wood, the subtle pressure of his palms, the scent of the lavender. These are the parameters of his existence for this hour. He feels the cooling of the room as the sun dips lower, but it does not disturb him. The physical effort of the work keeps him warm, a comforting heat that radiates from his chest and down into his arms. He is in perfect harmony with his surroundings. The architecture of the room, with its sweeping stone ribs and heavy grounded presence, feels like a physical manifestation of his own internal state, solid, enduring, and quiet. As he reaches the final fold of this particular sheet, he performs a small instinctive gesture, a light, affectionate smoothing of the center, as if he were tucking a child into bed. The sheet is now a perfect compact rectangle, ready for the linen press. He places it carefully on a growing stack of similar rectangles, the white fabric shimmering softly in the dimming light. Every layer added is a victory of order over entropy. He is building a fortress of cleanliness, a stack of peace that will eventually be carried to the sleeping quarters of his brothers, offering them the quiet comfort of cool lavender-scented sheets at the end of their long day of labor and prayer. The silence of the abbey is his companion, a vast, invisible presence that hums with the promise of rest. He turns back to the table, ready for the next piece, his mind clear, his body rhythmically engaged, and his spirit settled into the deep, unhurried flow of the monastery's afternoon. The rhythm of the work has become a form of trance, a steady, hypnotic oscillation that keeps the world at bay. With each sheet folded, the lay brother's movements grow more fluid, more integrated with the heavy, stubborn nature of the linen. He has reached the middle of the pile now, and the stack on the table has grown into a significant, waist-high structure of crisp, white geometry. The light through the clerestory windows has deepened into a rich burnt orange, a hue that signals the transition from the golden heat of afternoon toward the cool violet twilight of the mountains. He stops for a moment, not out of fatigue, but out of a simple, sudden appreciation for the sheer stillness of the space. In these quiet moments, the abbey feels like a ship anchored in the middle of a vast, turbulent ocean of time, completely insulated from the anxieties and pressures that dictate the lives of those who dwell in the bustling cities of the lowlands. If you are finding yourself drawn into this moment of historical calm, take a second to breathe with us. Subscribe to our channel and join our community of listeners who seek to pause the clock and find peace in the stories of the past. By subscribing, you help us continue to weave these tales of quiet history, bringing the restorative power of storytelling to your daily routine. He resumes his task, the next sheet requiring a bit more dexterity. It is a smaller piece, likely a pillow cover, and it has retained a faint crease from its time in the sun. He runs his hand over the fabric, feeling the subtle resistance of the fibers against his calloused skin. He does not force the crease out. He works it, massaging the fabric until it yields to the pressure of his palm. There is a lesson here, one he has learned over a lifetime of service. That which is rigid and resistant eventually softens under the weight of steady, gentle persistence. It is a philosophy he applies not just to the linen, but to his own spirit, his own doubts, and the small human frictions that occur even in the most holy of places. The scent of lavender, now stronger as the room cools, seems to act as a tether, grounding him firmly in the present. It is a clean, honest scent, no artifice, no complexity, just the essence of the flowers that grow in the abbey's small protected garden, harvested by hand and dried in the rafters of the laundry cellar. He turns the pillowcase, folding it into thirds, his fingers deftly tucking the edges in so that the final shape is perfectly symmetrical. There is a profound satisfaction in this, a sense of completion that feels almost spiritual. He thinks briefly of the monk who will sleep on this pillow tonight. He imagines the exhaustion that settles into the man's bones after a day spent kneeling in the stone chapel or tilling the rocky soil of the mountainside. He imagines the relief that person will feel when their head sinks into this cool, lavender-scented linen, the the way the world's noise will vanish, replaced by the soft, clean promise of a restful night. This is his ministry. It is not preached from a pulpit, but practiced on a table of oak. It is a service of comfort, a humble contribution to the collective peace of the community. He stands up straight, his spine cracking with a soft, audible pop that echoes in the vaulted room. He rotates his shoulders, feeling the tension of the afternoon dissipate. He walks to the edge of the table, his footsteps heavy and purposeful on the flagstones. He picks up a small pitcher of water from a nearby ledge, pouring a little into a basin to rinse his hands. The water is cold, shockingly so, drawn from a mountain spring that feeds the abbey's cisterns. It bites at his skin, waking his senses further, and he dries his hands on a rough towel, feeling the sudden sharp contrast between the dampness of the water and the dryness of the air. He takes a deep breath, the cold air filling his lungs, clarifying his mind. He is ready to finish the last of the pile. He moves back to the table with a renewed sense of purpose. The light is fading now, the golden shafts through the clerestory windows becoming more diffuse, turning the room into a soft monochromatic space of grays and deep warm browns. The shadows have stretched to their maximum length, touching the far wall and climbing slightly up the curved stone. He begins on the final largest sheet, a massive heavy piece that requires him to stretch his arms wide. As he lifts it, the sheet hangs like a heavy veil, shimmering in the twilight. He swings it gracefully, folding it once, then twice, walking along the length of the table to maintain the tension. There is a beauty in this movement, a dance between man and material. He is careful, precise, and entirely focused. The final folds are made with a sense of ceremony. He presses down, smoothing the linen one last time, feeling the coolness of the fabric beneath his palms. He has done it. The work is complete. The stack of linen is uniform, perfectly aligned, and ready to be transported. He stands for a moment in the deepening dusk, listening to the silence of the abbey as it prepares for the evening office. He is at peace, and for this he is grateful. With the final sheet folded and the task at hand reaching its quiet conclusion, the atmosphere in the laundry cell undergoes a subtle transformation. The air, once charged with the active energy of labor, begins to settle into a state of profound dormant equilibrium. The lay brother stands by the great oak table, his hands still resting lightly on the topmost layer of the linens, as if he were holding down a collection of white clouds that might otherwise drift away into the high vaulted darkness above. The silence which had been a backdrop to his work now swells to fill the entire chamber, becoming a physical presence. It is a thick velvet silence, heavy with the absence of sound, yet vibrant with the weight of centuries of monastic tradition. He listens, not to the world outside, but to the internal resonance of the abbey itself. The distant, muffled tolling of a single bell signaling the approach of Vesper, the soft, rhythmic settling of the ancient masonry, and the faint, persistent whisper of the mountain wind circling the stone spires high above. He moves with deliberate, slow-motion grace to collect the stacks. The weight of the linen is familiar, a comfortable burden that pulls at his shoulders and engages his muscles in a way that feels grounding and real. He carries the first stack toward the heavy wooden door that leads to the corridors connecting the cell to the rest of the monastery. Each step on the uneven flagstones is measured. He feels the coolness of the stone through his thin sandals, a constant reminder of the earth beneath this house of prayer. He navigates the dim, winding passage with the ease of someone who has walked these same paths for years, his internal compass perfectly calibrated to the layout of the abbey. The walls here are thick and damp, weeping with the natural moisture of the mountain, yet the linens in his arms remain protected and dry, smelling faintly of that lingering ethereal lavender. As he emerges from the laundry cell and enters the main artery of the cloister, the change in perspective is dramatic. The corridor is a long, barrel-vaulted tunnel of shadow and pale stone, illuminated only by the fading, indirect light spilling from the inner courtyard. The air here is sharper, carrying the scent of incense and old parchment, the true characteristic perfume of the monastic life. He passes a small, unadorned niche where a simple weathered crucifix hangs, and he pauses for a fleeting heartbeat, his head bowing slightly in acknowledgement. The act is instinctive, a punctuation mark in his day, an anchor of faith that connects his humble task of laundering to the deeper transcendent purpose of the abbey. The stillness of the monastery is not an empty thing. It is a full thing, occupied by the unseen presence of the brothers currently gathered in the chapel, their voices perhaps just beginning to rise in the low haunting melodies of the evening chant. He continues his journey through the quiet architecture, the stacks of linen balanced carefully in his arms, the transition from the isolated, functional space of the laundry to the contemplative space of the cloister marks the end of his solitary stewardship. He is moving from the realm of the physical into the realm of the communal. He realizes that the work he has just finished is not truly his own. It is part of a grander circulation of resources and care. The linen, once washed and folded, will return to the beds of the brothers, providing them with the necessary comfort to continue their own specialized labors, transcribing manuscripts, tending to the infirmary, or studying the ancient texts. He is a link in a chain of mutual support that has held the abbey together through droughts, winters, and the slow grinding erosion of time. Reaching the brothers' quarters, he enters the dormitory, a long Spartan hall lined with rows of narrow wooden cots. The room is currently empty, bathed in the soft blue light of the late twilight. He begins to distribute the linens, placing a neatly folded stack at the foot of each bed. He works with the same precision he used in the laundry, ensuring each pile is perfectly square, each edge aligned. As he places the sheets, he finds himself feeling a sense of deep, quiet satisfaction. There is a profound honesty in this work. There is nothing showy about it, no desire for recognition or acclaim. It is in its purest form an act of service. The quiet, repetitive nature of the task has stripped away his own ego, leaving him in a state of simple, transparent awareness. He is simply a brother, serving his brothers in a place dedicated to the service of the divine. The final stack is placed. He straightens up, wiping a bead of sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand. The room is now ready, expectant in the twilight, waiting for the return of the men who live here. The silence of the dormitory is different from the silence of the laundry cell. It is expectant, charged with the energy of the coming night. He takes one last look at his handiwork, the white linen stuck against the dark polished wood of the cots, and he feels a deep, abiding peace settle into his chest. His work is done, the duty fulfilled, and the evening office awaits. He turns, walking slowly back toward the chapel, his gait light, his heart unburdened, and his mind perfectly still, reflecting the quiet, orderly beauty of the world he has just tended to. The mountains loom large outside the high, narrow windows, their jagged peaks silhouetted against the indigo sky, guarding the abbey as it transitions into the long, restorative dark. The chapel bells begin to ring, a resonant, deep-throated sound that vibrates through the very foundations of the abbey. The iron clapper strikes the metal with a weight that seems to challenge the fading light of the day. For the lay brother, now standing in the transition between the dormitory and the stone corridor, this sound is more than a signal. It is an invitation to shed the lingering dust of his manual labor and transition into the realm of pure collective devotion. The transition is seamless. He smooths his habit, pulls his shoulders back, and begins to move with a steady, reverent gait toward the heart of the monastery. Each step on the cold, worn stones of the corridor feels like a return to a center point, a place where the scattered energies of the day are gathered and offered up to something far greater than himself. As he nears the chapel, the atmosphere shifts. The air, which was filled with the clean, crisp scent of lavender and Alpine wind in the laundry, now takes on the heavy, sacred fragrance of beeswax candles and centuries-old frankincense. It is a scent that acts as a spiritual bridge, connecting the mundane tasks of the living to the eternal mysteries of the divine. He passes through the massive arched doorway, and the space expands into a soaring vertical landscape of shadows and flickers of golden candlelight. The architecture here is far more ornate than the laundry cell, yet it retains that same core sense of stability and permanence. The high-reaching columns draw the eye upward into the gloom, and the stained glass, now dark and opaque in the twilight, feels like a protective skin separating the sacred interior from the harsh, wild beauty of the mountain slopes outside. He finds his place in the rows of simple wooden stalls, joining his brothers who have already assembled their faces, illuminated by the low flickering light of the beeswax candles, are masks of concentrated stillness. There is no acknowledgement of his arrival, no nod of greeting. They are all here for the same purpose, focused on the same point of contact with the eternal. He slides into his seat, the wood cool beneath his touch, and bows his head. The silence is profound, a living, breathing thing that fills the vast volume of the chapel and settles into the nooks and crannies of the stone carvings. It is a silence that has been cultivated here for hundreds of years, a silence that seems to have its own history, its own weight, its own wisdom. The chanting begins, a low melodic drone that rises from the throats of the gathered men like a collective breath. It is a Gregorian chant, the notes long sustained and devoid of sharp edges or modern urgency. The sound fills the space, bouncing off the vaulted ceilings and mingling with the incense, creating an atmosphere that feels simultaneously fragile and unshakable. The lay brother joins his voice to the swell, his tone blending into the harmony of the whole. He does not need to focus on the individual words, he knows them by heart. The familiar rhythm of the Latin cadences providing a structure for his prayers. His mind, which had been so singularly focused on the folding of linen sheets only moments ago, now expands to encompass the wider, more abstract realities of his faith. In this space, the distinctions between the physical and the metaphysical begin to blur. He thinks of the sheets he just placed on the beds, the tactile reality of their coolness, the effort required to make them perfect, the smell of the mountain lavender. They are part of this life, just as much as the chant is. The labor is the prayer. The care he took in smoothing out the wrinkles is an extension of the care he is now offering up in song. There is no hierarchy of importance between the two. They are both expressions of the same commitment, the same desire to bring order, beauty, and peace into a world that is inherently prone to chaos and decay. He closes his eyes, letting the vibration of the chant resonate in his chest, feeling a deep physical connection to the man beside him and to the generations of brothers who have stood in this very spot singing these same songs into the mountain night. The candles flicker as a draft moves through the high arched windows, casting dancing, erratic shadows against the stone walls. These shadows are like living beings, restless and transient, a stark contrast to the eternal stoic presence of the abbey itself. The brother feels a surge of gratitude for the stability of this place. In a world that is so often defined by change, loss, and the relentless march of time, the abbey is a refuge, a steadfast rock in a shifting sea. The chant reaches a crescendo, a high haunting melody that hangs in the air for a heartbeat, before slowly, gracefully falling back into the deep resonant bass of the monk's collective voice. As the sound fades into the shadows, the silence returns, deeper and more complete than before. He remains bowed, his heart light, his spirit aligned with the rhythms of the community. The day is ending, the work is done, and he is exactly where he is meant to be, participating in the quiet unfolding mystery of the monastic night. The final cadence of the chant leaves a lingering vibration in the cool, stone-chill air of the chapel. a ghostly echo that seems to hover near the vaulted ceiling before gently dissipating into the deep shadows. For a long moment, not a single soul moves. The silence is absolute, an expansive velvet shroud that wraps around the brothers, binding them together in a shared experience of profound peace. The lay brother remains with his head bowed, his eyes closed, his hands resting naturally in his lap. His physical body, recently so active in the laundry cell, feels grounded and heavy, a vessel for the stillness that has now permeated his entire being. He feels the faint, cooling draft of the mountain night creeping into the chapel, a reminder of the vast, rugged wilderness that exists just beyond the thick, protective walls of the abbey. This is the boundary where the human and the elemental meet, where the structured, intentional life of the monastery interfaces with the wild, unpredictable heart of the Alps. He slowly opens his eyes, letting his vision adjust to the dimness of the flickering candlelight. The shadows are long and distorted, cast by the shifting flames of the beeswax tapers, dancing across the stone floor and climbing the intricate carvings of the stalls like restless spirits. He takes a breath, the air thick with the lingering scent of incense and the faint, earthy musk of old stone. It's a familiar, comforting environment, a place where he has spent more time than he has spent in any other room in the world. He recognizes the patterns in the floor, the specific way the light hits the altar, the particular subtle rhythm of his brother's breathing. There is an immense, quiet power in this familiarity. It is the power of a life lived in accordance with a singular, unwavering purpose, a life that has been distilled down to its most essential elements. As the brothers begin to rise, the movement is synchronized, almost robotic in its practiced grace. They stand in unison, their habits rustling softly, a sound that in the silence seems as sharp and significant as a drumbeat. They begin to file out of the chapel, moving in a slow, rhythmic procession that echoes against the vaulted stone. The lay brother falls into line, his pace matching the steady, measured stride of the man in front of him. They move through the dark corridors, the only light provided by the occasional guttering iron lantern hanging from the ceiling. The abbey at night is a different world entirely. It is a place of whispers, of hidden corners, of cold stone and deep impenetrable darkness. It is a place that feels as if it has been carved out of the mountain itself, a subterranean fortress against the chaos of the outside world. He thinks as he walks of the stack of linen he left on the cots in the dormitory. It feels like a long time ago, a different life, though only a few hours have passed. The work was so simple, so mundane, yet it feels significant now, in the quiet aftermath of the evening office. It was a tangible contribution to the well-being of his community, a small essential cog in the vast, complex machine of the abbey. He realizes that this is the essence of his existence here, to be a part, to serve, to contribute to the collective whole. There is no individual glory in his labor, no fame, no recognition. There is only the work, the prayer, and the quiet satisfaction of a duty fulfilled. It is a humbling realization, one that he embraces with a sense of relief. The burden of self, the need to prove, the desire for external validation, all of these are stripped away, replaced by the simple, clean, and honest life of the monastery. They reach the entrance to the dormitory, and the brothers disperse, each moving toward their own small, austere cell. The lay brother enters his own space, a tiny, windowless room that is little more than a stone box. It is cold, but the air is dry and fresh, smelling faintly of the same lavender that permeated the laundry cell. He takes off his habit, folding it with the same care he applied to the linen sheets, and prepares for the few hours of rest allowed before the night office. He lies down on his cot, the straw mattress rustling softly beneath him. He pulls the linen sheet up to his chin, the very sheet he had folded with such precision just hours before. The fabric is cool, crisp, and smells of the mountain air and the crushed lavender blossoms. It is the most luxurious, comforting thing he could imagine. He closes his eyes, his body sinking into the bed, his mind slowing, becoming a quiet, still surface. He drifts into a light, restorative sleep, the silence of the abbey wrapping around him like a protective blanket, a testament to the order and peace that he has worked so hard to maintain. Sleepy History with Tales is a sleep history storytelling platform created for entertainment, inspiration, education, and the promotion of positive emotional values. The darkness in the cell is total, a thick velvet weight that presses gently against the eyelids. In the deep silence of the Alpine night, the abbey seems to suspend its own existence, hovering in the vast cold space between the earth and the stars. The lay brother lies perfectly still, his breathing steady and shallow, a soft rhythmic tide against the encroaching quiet. He is not asleep, not yet. He is in that liminal state where the day's work and the night's rest bleed into one another. He feels the coolness of the stone walls surrounding him, a reminder of the mountain's constant silent presence. It is as if the abbey were an extension of the peaks themselves, a structure of granite and limestone that has been here since the dawn of time and will remain long after the current inhabitants have faded into history. The linen sheet, crisp and smelling of lavender, remains a tactile anchor. He can feel the texture of the weave against his skin, a reminder of the hours spent smoothing, folding, and tending to the fibers. His mind begins to wander, not in the frantic, scattered way it might if he were outside these walls, but with a slow, drifting grace. He thinks of the flax fields in the early summer, when the flowers turn the valley into a sea of delicate sky blue blossoms. He remembers the back-breaking labor of the harvest, the way the sun burned his neck and shoulders, and the shared silent endurance of the brothers working alongside him. Their work too was a prayer. It was an offering of sweat and time, a transformation of raw wild earth into something that could be used, shared, and valued. The cycle of the linen, from the seed in the earth to the stalk in the field, the spinning in the workshops, the washing in the icy mountain water, and the final graceful folding in the laundry cell is a perfect closed loop. It is a symbol of the monastic life itself, a constant, deliberate refining of the spirit, a stripping away of the unnecessary until only the essential remains. The call intensifies as the night progresses, a sharp crystalline chill that slips through the gaps in the masonry. He pulls the edges of the sheet tighter around his shoulders. The scent of lavender is still there, a soft floral ghost that comforts him. In the silence he begins to hear the music of the mountain, the distant booming crack of shifting ice in the high glaciers, the rushing of a hidden stream deep within the valley, and the occasional mournful howl of a wolf prowling the upper slopes. These are the sounds of the wilderness, untamed and indifferent to the existence of the abbey. Yet here he is, safe behind a stone, wrapped in the fruit of his own labor, protected by the very structure he serves to maintain. It is a profound realization of his place in the world. He is a tiny, fragile thread in a vast, complex tapestry, and that is exactly where he is meant to be. He finds himself drifting deeper into the memory of the laundry cell. He recalls the way the golden shafts of light moved across the flagstone floor, those long, stretching shadows that seemed to hold the weight of entire decades. He remembers the way the dust motes danced in the air, a miniature galaxy of light, and the way the fabric felt in his hands, cool, resistant, and eventually yielding. He had been so focused on that single task, so completely immersed in the geometry of the fold, that the rest of the world had simply ceased to exist. There is a deep, abiding joy in that kind of focus. It is the joy of being fully present, of erasing the boundary between the worker and the work, of becoming a conduit for order and beauty. He hopes that the monks who sleep in these beds, wrapped in the linens he has prepared, will find that same sense of peace. He hopes that in the quiet of the night, they too will feel the care that went into every motion, the prayer that was woven into every fold. As his consciousness begins to blur, the boundaries of the room seem to dissolve. He is no longer just a man in a cell. He is the cool, clean fabric, the scent of the lavender, the stillness of the abbey, the enduring stone of the mountain. He is a part of everything, and everything is a part of him. The transition into true sleep is subtle, a gentle surrender to the darkness. His breathing becomes even more shallow, his body more relaxed, his mind more expansive. The weight of the world, the memories of the day, the expectations of the future, they all fall away, leaving him in a state of pure, unadulterated existence. In this quiet, holy night in the heart of the Austrian Alps, he is finally completely at rest. The abbey holds him, the mountain guards him, and the peace of his service remains a lingering, fragrant, and invisible presence in the cold, clear air. The middle of the night brings a shift in the quality of the silence. It is no longer the expectant, heavy quiet of the evening, but a hollow, crystalline stillness that permeates the very air of the abbey. Outside, the moon has risen, casting a pale spectral glow over the jagged peaks of the Alps. The light bleeds through the high arched windows of the dormitory, painting long silver blades of luminescence across the floor. In his cell, the lay brother remains deep in the restorative embrace of sleep. His mind, stripped of its daytime preoccupations, wanders through landscapes of soft diffuse light and endless rhythmic motion. He is back in the laundry cell, yet it is transformed. The stone walls are glowing with a soft inner radiance, and the piles of linen are not merely fabric, but stacks of concentrated white light. He reaches out to touch them, and they are cool, endlessly smooth and vibrant with an energy that feels like a physical manifestation of his own peace. The sensation of the dream is so vivid that it ripples into his physical reality, causing his hands to twitch slightly beneath the covers. He is moving through the motions of folding again, but in this dream space, the process is effortless, a graceful flowing dance that requires no conscious thought. The scent of lavender is overwhelming, a heady floral tide that fills the air and grounds him in a profound sense of well-being. He feels a deep, abiding connection to the monks sleeping in the other cells, a silent communion of spirits bound together by their shared dedication to this life of devotion. Even in the depths of sleep, he is aware of the continuity of their purpose. They are a single collective organism, breathing in and out with the rhythm of the monastery, their lives a long sustained note in a much larger divine melody. This dream is not just a fantasy. It is a reflection of the reality he lives each day, a synthesis of the physical labor and the spiritual aspiration that defines the abbey's existence. As the night deepens, the temperature drops, the frost beginning to form on the exterior stone surfaces. Inside, the thermal mass of the monastery walls provides a steady protective warmth, a subtle, lingering heat gathered from the sun during the long bright days of the season. He is nestled within this warmth, cocooned in the very linens he has prepared with such devotion. There is a profound, almost primal comfort in this. The act of creation, the labor of the hands, has returned to him as a gift of rest. It is a perfect cycle, a karmic symmetry that reinforces the rightness of his path. He is not merely a servant of the abbey, he is a part of its architecture, a stone in its foundation, a heartbeat in its chest. The silence of the night is his companion, a vast dark mirror reflecting the clarity of his own soul. He hears, or perhaps only imagines, the distant, muffled sound of the night office bells. It is a faint, ethereal chime that seems to drift down from the high mountain air, calling the brothers to prayer in the early hours. He does not wake, he is permitted to sleep, his duty for the cycle having been fulfilled. But even in his slumber, he acknowledges the call. is a reminder of the order that governs their existence, the structured, predictable progression of the day that keeps them anchored in their faith. He feels a sense of immense gratitude for this structure. In a world that is so often chaotic, uncertain, and filled with unnecessary struggle, the Abbey provides a sanctuary of clarity and purpose. Every action, every moment is imbued with meaning, and that meaning is the source of his peace. He shifts on the straw mattress, the linen rustling softly, and a small, satisfied smile touches his lips. The dream fades, but the feeling of lightness, of absolute contentment, remains. He is submerged in the stillness, a part of the quiet ancient history of this place, waiting for the return of the sun to begin the cycle once more. He knows that when he wakes, the light will return to the clerestory windows, the air will turn gold, the lavender will bloom in his memory, and he will return to the laundry cell to begin the work again. And in that, he finds everything he could ever need. The cycle of the day, the cycle of the seasons, the cycle of the soul. It is all here, held in the silence of the Austrian night. Sleepy History with Tales combines the power of AI to reimagine fictional historical tales, bringing peace, relaxation, and positive emotional values to our listeners. The first stirrings of the dawn begin to manifest as a thin, silver-gray light, barely perceptible against the deep, brooding indigo of the mountain peaks. Inside the abbey, the profound silence remains unbroken, yet it has lost its nocturnal weight, becoming lighter, more expectant. The lay brother stirs in his sleep, the transition to wakefulness arriving not with a sudden jolt, but as a slow, gradual rising to the surface of a deep, still pool. He becomes aware of his own breathing, the coolness of the air on his cheeks, and the comforting, familiar texture of the linen sheets beneath his fingers. He does not rush to open his eyes. He remains in the brief golden moment of the between state, where the echoes of his dreams still mingle with the physical reality of the cell. The scent of lavender, faint and sweet, persists in the air, a tether to the work that awaits him. He is struck by the absolute continuity of his life. There is no disruption, no jarring shift between the dream and the waking world. They are both expressions of the same singular existence. As he finally opens his eyes, the room is dimly lit by the emerging day, the rough stone walls appearing as if they were made of soft gray smoke. He feels a sense of quiet exhilaration, a renewed commitment to the simple beauty of his task. He rises, the straw mattress whispering beneath him, and begins his morning routine with the same methodical grace he brings to the folding of linen. He dons his habit, the coarse wool familiar and grounding against his skin, and prepares himself for the day ahead. He knows that soon the bells will ring for lots, calling the community to the first prayer of the morning. He steps out of his cell and into the corridor, the cold air hitting him with a sharp, invigorating clarity. The abbey is still a hushed temple of stone waiting for the light to touch its highest towers. He walks toward the chapel, his footsteps quiet on the damp flagstones. He encounters a few other brothers on their way, their heads bowed, their faces composed in the same serene expressions of expectation. There is a silent recognition between them, a shared understanding of the sanctity of the hour. They are all here, in this remote corner of the world, for the same reason, to live in a way that is true, simple, and devoted to the highest ideal. The sense of community is profound, a silent, binding thread that holds them together even when they are alone in their thoughts. As he reaches the chapel, the sky outside the high windows is beginning to blush with the first faint hues of pink and gold. The light spills into the nave, catching the dust motes and turning them into a shimmering ethereal mist. The chapel, so dark and mysterious during the night, begins to reveal its true majestic form. The stone arches, the intricate carvings, the heavy wooden stalls, they are all bathed in a soft, diffuse glow that makes them appear both ancient and timeless. He takes his seat, the wood cool and solid beneath his hands, and bows his head. The prayers begin a low rhythmic chant that rises in the cool air, a collective offering of thanks for the gift of another day. He joins in, his voice blending with the others, a small part of a much larger, resonant whole. The morning prayer is short, a brief acknowledgement of the divine before the work of the day commences. As they file out of the chapel, the sun is beginning to crest over the jagged peaks of the Alps, flooding the valley with brilliant, blinding light. The air is crisp, filled with the scent of pine and mountain snow, a heady, refreshing tonic that clears the mind and sharpens the senses. He takes a moment to look out at the valley, the lush green slopes contrasting with the stark gray rock of the mountains. It is a world of immense untamed beauty, a place where the human spirit is both dwarfed and uplifted by the sheer scale of the landscape. He feels a surge of gratitude for his place in it, for the work he has to do, and for the peace that surrounds him, shielding him from the chaos of the world below. He turns his mind already anticipating the laundry cell, the golden light, and the quiet, orderly ritual of the linen. He is ready to begin again. The morning light, now fully realized and spilling into the courtyard with a brilliant golden intensity, signals the start of the daily labor. The brother makes his way back toward the laundry wing, his path taking him through the cloister, where the morning air is vibrant with the song of mountain birds. There is a renewed vitality in the world. The dew on the flagstones reflects the blue of the sky, and the very air feels charged with the potential of a new, untouched day. He moves with a purpose that is not hurried but deeply ingrained, his body already anticipating the rhythmic physical demands of the task that lies ahead. As he nears the laundry cell, he hears the distant sound of the great bell of the abbey, a deep, resonating toll that echoes through the valley and vibrates in the very marrow of his bones. It is a reminder that the cycle has turned, and he is back at his place of service. He opens the heavy iron-bound door, and the room welcomes him like an old friend. The air inside is still cool, holding the residual chill of the night, and as he opens the clerestory windows, he allows a fresh current of morning air to wash through, carrying the scent of pine needles and damp earth from the mountain slopes. The table, crafted from thick, seasoned oak, sits ready and waiting in the center of the room. He begins his work by preparing the space, clearing the remains of the previous day, arranging the woven willow baskets that hold the clean, dry linen, and ensuring that the cloths for pressing are laid out precisely where he needs them. Every motion is deliberate, a continuation of the choreography he has performed 1,000 times before. He is not merely preparing a room, he is preparing a space for meditation, for the intersection of the practical and the transcendent. He moves to the large, deep stone basin in the corner where the water is drawn from the mountain cistern. The water is crystalline and freezing, a sensory shock that wakes his hands and sharpens his concentration. He rinses the basin, wipes it dry with a linen cloth, and then turns his attention to the first load of laundry. These linens, washed yesterday and hung to dry on the high breezy lines in the abbey courtyard, have been touched by the early morning sun. They are stiff, crisp, and carry the unmistakable scent of the high altitude, a fragrance of ozone, granite, and a hint of the blooming Alpine flora. He carries them to the table in a large, heavy bundle, feeling the weight of the fabric and the resistance of the sun-dried fibers. Each piece feels like a fragment of the day itself, preserved in white woven cotton. As he begins to unfold the first sheet, he is struck by the texture of the material. It is slightly coarse to the touch, a reminder of the labor involved in its creation, from the flax field to the spinning wheel. He shakes the sheet, the fabric snapping in the quiet air with a sound like a distant, sudden gust of wind. It billows outward, catching the light and creating a momentary sculpture of white shadow and movement. He guides it onto the table, his movements smooth and practiced, He aligns the edges, ensuring the corners are perfect, and begins the process of pressing. His palms are the tools of this trade, moving in wide, sweeping arcs that follow the grain of the fabric. He is ironing out the wrinkles of the world, creating a surface that is perfectly smooth, perfectly ordered, and entirely at peace. He loses track of time, entering that familiar state of flow, where the boundary between his identity and the task disappears. He is no longer the lay brother in the Austrian Abbey of 1720. He is the movement, the friction, the lavender, and the light. The repetitive nature of the folding is a mantra, a physical manifestation of his internal prayer. He finds himself thinking of the brothers as he works, picturing them in their various duties, some in the library, bent over fading manuscripts, others in the garden, their hands stained with the dark, rich soil of the mountain, and others still in the infirmary, offering comfort to the weak. He is providing for them, giving them the foundation of a clean, restful place for their bodies. It is a quiet, hidden service, and in that hiddenness, he finds his deepest satisfaction. He is content to be the one who ensures the comfort of the others, the one who works in the shadow of the great golden light that streams through the high windows, shaping the day into something beautiful and complete. The shadows begin to move and he walks on, lost in the rhythm, finding the infinite in the finite, the eternal in the temporal. The morning progresses, the golden light in the room intensifying as the sun climbs higher above the jagged, snow-capped peaks surrounding the abbey. The lay brother continues his work with the same unhurried, rhythmic precision that has defined his entire morning. He is now moving through the second bundle of laundry, his hands working in a dance of efficiency and grace. There is a profound sense of continuity in this labor. He feels as though he has been here for an eternity, folding white linen, smoothing wrinkles, and breathing in the sharp, clean air of the mountains. He is perfectly in tune with the environment. The abbey, with its thick ancient walls, provides a constant protective presence, insulating him from the outside world while allowing him to stay connected to the fundamental realities of nature: the light, the air, the cold stone, and the scent of lavender. As he finishes folding a heavy ornate tablecloth used for the high altar, he pauses to admire the weave. It is intricate and fine, a testament to the skill of the weavers who produced such items for the monastery. He runs his hand over the delicate patterns, feeling the history embedded in the thread. Everything in this abbey has a purpose and a lineage. Nothing is wasted, and nothing is without meaning. He feels a sense of responsibility to treat these items with the reverence they deserve. By keeping them clean, folded, and ready for use, he is preserving the dignity of the community's shared life. It is a quiet, noble service that brings him peace and keeps his mind clear. He reflects on how fortunate he is to be a part of this existence, away from the frantic, cluttered world beyond the valley. He realizes that if you have been enjoying this journey into the quiet historical heart of our abbey, we invite you to become a regular member of our audience. Please subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. By joining us, you are helping to preserve these stories and keeping the spirit of calm and mindfulness alive in a modern, often noisy world, allowing us to continue producing these immersive, peaceful tales for you to enjoy whenever you need a moment of tranquility. The afternoon sun begins to shift again, casting long, familiar shadows across the flagstone floor. He knows that his time in the laundry cell will soon draw to a close for the day, but there is still plenty to be done. He begins on the final stack, his movements as fluid and focused as ever. He is not tired. The work itself is energizing, a physical manifestation of his commitment. He feels his body move with a lightness that surprises him. A result he suspects of the steady, moderate pace and the constant rhythmic exercise of his limbs. He is in balance mentally, physically, and spiritually. The chores are a form of moving meditation, allowing him to bypass the complexities of thought and enter a state of pure being. He reflects on the silence of the room. It is not an empty, hollow silence, but a dense, living thing, filled with the presence of all the work that has been done here over the centuries. He feels like a guardian of this silence, a keeper of the abbey's quietude. The laundry cell is a place where the chaos of life is sorted, cleansed, and organized, where order is restored. It is a metaphorical space as much as a physical one, and he is honored to hold it. He takes pride in the neatness of the piles, the precision of the folds, and the gentle, lingering scent of lavender that fills the air. Every action is a small, quiet act of love, an offering made in the dark, cool, stone-walled heart of the mountains. He continues, his hands moving across the white cloth, his mind wandering into the deep, peaceful history of the abbey, feeling the weight of the past and the simple, clean hope of the present. The afternoon wanes, and as the light turns from gold to amber, he feels a deep, abiding sense of gratitude for the life he leads and the quiet, essential work he performs. The transition into the late afternoon brings with it a subtle shift in the quality of the light, an amber-hued warmth that seems to settle over the laundry cell like a heavy golden veil. The brother, now deep into the final tasks of his shift, works with a steady, quiet resolve. The piles of folded linen have grown into a small landscape of white, clean-edged towers on the heavy oak table. Each piece is a finished thought, a completed prayer. He finds himself marveling at the simplicity of it all. In an era where so much of the world is defined by complexity, by the pursuit of wealth, or by the expansion of influence, there is something radical about his commitment to the humble act of washing and folding. It is a rebellion of sorts, a quiet, persistent refusal to be defined by the chaotic noise of external ambitions. He is anchored in the present moment, in the tactile reality of cloth and the simple physics of his own body. He picks up a final large sheet, his arm stretching wide to catch it as he lifts it from the basket. The air catches the fabric, and it billows for a moment like a cloud caught in a canyon draft, white against the dark, watered stone. He maneuvers it with a grace that comes from decades of practice, his hands finding the corners as if by instinct, snapping the fabric taut to ensure a perfect alignment. The sound of the snap echoes briefly in the high-ribbed ceiling, a sharp, crisp punctuation mark in the ongoing soft whisper of his work. He lays it down, smoothing it with long, firm strokes of his palms, feeling the lingering warmth of the sun that had baked the fabric earlier in the day. It is as if he is storing the sun's energy within the fibers, a small radiant reserve that will eventually offer comfort to a tired, weary brother at the end of a long, challenging day. As he folds, his mind wanders to the mountains themselves, those towering giants that loom over the abbey. They are ever present, their jagged, snow-dusted peaks visible even from the high, narrow clerestory windows. They represent an endurance that is beyond the scope of human time, a cold, hard, and indifferent beauty that puts his own life into perspective. He imagines the mountain winds howling through the high passes, the deep hidden glaciers shifting with a slow grinding power, and the silent patient growth of the Alpine pines. The abbey is just a tiny fragile speck in this vast landscape, a temporary shelter for a handful of men dedicated to the pursuit of something higher. He feels a deep abiding connection to this scale, finding it both humbling and profoundly reassuring. He is small, his work is small, but his contribution to the cycle of the community is essential, and that is more than enough for him. He turns his attention to the final stack, his movements slowing down, savoring the last few moments of this specific meditative state. He knows that once this task is done, he will return to the rhythm of the communal life, the vespers, the silent meal in the refectory, the slow, candlelit walk back to the dormitory. He enjoys these transitions, the way they mark the segments of the day. But there is a particular quiet joy in the solitude of the laundry room. It is a space where he can be alone with his thoughts, where the only demands placed upon him are those he places upon himself. He feels the weight of his own existence settle into his bones, a comfortable, familiar anchor. He has nothing to prove, nothing to defend, and nowhere else he would rather be. The air is cooling again. The shadows are lengthening, and the scent of lavender seems to deepen, a rich floral anchor that holds him in the present. He carefully stacks the final folded items, aligning them with the others. The work is finished. He stands back to survey the result, a row of perfect white rectangles, each one a testament to the order, care, and devotion he has poured into his morning. It is a satisfying sight, one that brings a sense of calm to his chest. He begins to clear the table, placing the empty baskets back into their designated spots, wiping down the wood with a soft, dry cloth. Every action is precise. Every movement is clean. He is restoring the room to its state of potential, ready for the next day, the next cycle, the next round of work. As he heads toward the door, he pauses to turn off the light, leaving the room to the settling shadows and the quiet, stone-bound stillness. He steps out into the cool, darkening corridor, his heart full, his mind quiet, and his spirit ready for the evening's transition into the rest of the monastery's life. The transition from the cool, sequestered air of the laundry cell into the cloister is a slow immersion into the deepening twilight of the abbey. The stone walls, which held the heat of the sun throughout the afternoon, are now radiating a soft, cool dampness that feels refreshing against the skin. The lay brother walks with a gait that has been tempered by his day of labor, steady, unhurried, and perfectly calibrated to the silence that has descended upon the monastery. The cloister is a world of geometry and shadow, where the arches of the walkway create a rhythmic, repeating pattern of light and dark that leads the eye toward the center of the garden. In this inner sanctum, the flowers have closed their petals, and the stillness is so absolute that he can hear the soft, distant trickle of the water feature in the center of the courtyard. It is a place that invites reflection, a space carved out of time where the concerns of the material world are supposed to dissolve, replaced by the persistent, unwavering pursuit of the spiritual. As he moves along the path, his sandals make a soft rhythmic padding sound on the flagstones, a sound that in the prevailing silence feels like a heartbeat. He passes the brothers' living quarters, the windows now dark, suggesting that those who have returned from their chores are likely in prayer or preparation for the evening meal. He feels a sense of quiet belonging. He is not alone. He is simply part of a larger invisible whole. His work in the laundry is not separate from the silence of the library or the focus of the infirmary. It is all one interconnected, vital system of maintenance and care. The linens he has folded are currently sitting in the dormitory, waiting to serve their purpose, to provide the simple, clean comfort that is so necessary for a life of sustained, rigorous dedication. There is a profound honesty in this, a type of service that asks for nothing in return other than the quiet satisfaction of the job done well. He pauses for a moment in the center of the cloister, looking up at the sky, which has turned a deep, bruised shade of indigo as the sun continues its descent behind the peaks. The first few stars are beginning to puncture the velvet darkness, sharp and brilliant in the clear, high-altitude air. It is a sight that always fills him with a sense of perspective. No matter how focused he becomes on the details of his day, the fold of a sheet, the texture of the weave, the scent of the lavender, he is always reminded that these things exist within a much grander celestial context. The mountains, the stars, the cold, silent air, they are the true permanent elements of the world, and the abbey is merely a temporary residence, a place where they are meant to learn how to exist in harmony with that permanence. He takes a long, slow breath, letting the cold air clear the lingering scent of soap and laundry from his mind. allowing the crispness of the evening to take hold. He turns his head toward the chapel, where the golden light of the interior begins to spill out into the darkening courtyard, painting long trapezoidal shapes on the ground. He knows that the bell will ring soon, signaling the start of the evening prayers. He feels no rush. He is exactly where he needs to be. The transition between the chores and the devotions is a vital part of his rhythm, a moment of intentional shift where he sheds the identity of the worker and embraces the identity of the seeker. He finds that he is looking forward to the chant, the collective sound of the brothers' voices, the way the harmony lifts the weight of the day and replaces it with a sense of shared unified purpose. It is the perfect conclusion to his tasks, the ultimate way to bookend the physical effort of the day with the spiritual necessity of the night. As he approaches the chapel door, he notices the texture of the stone under his hand, worn smooth by thousands of generations of brothers who have passed through this same threshold. It is a connection that spans the centuries, a tactile link to the history of the abbey. He is just one of many, a temporary inhabitant of a timeless structure. He pushes the heavy wood door open, and the scent of incense, beeswax, and cool subterranean stone washes over him. It is the smell of home, of stability, of a life lived in accordance with a singular, unwavering focus. He enters the nave, his footsteps muffled by the shadows, and takes his place among his brothers. The chapel is quiet, expectant, a vessel waiting to be filled with the sound of their devotion. He closes his eyes, bows his head, and waits for the first note of the evening song to break the silence, marking the end of one day and the preparation for the next. The world outside is vast, dark, and indifferent, but inside these walls, everything is clear, everything is ordered, and everything is at rest. The chapel is a sanctuary of profound acoustic resonance, and as the first note of the evening chant rises, it seems to originate not from human throats, but from the very stones themselves. The lay brother feels the vibration in his own chest, a sympathetic resonance that bridges the gap between his individual consciousness and the collective spirit of the monks. Each note is held with deliberate, slow-motion grace, allowed to bloom in the cool incense-laden air before being surrendered to the darkness of the vaulted ceiling. He finds that his fatigue, which had been a dull, comfortable hum in his muscles throughout the afternoon, has now completely dissolved, replaced by a clarity that feels almost crystalline. In this state, he can see the internal structure of his day with startling precision. The laundry, the light, the linen, and the prayer, all linked together in a seamless, unbroken chain of meaning. He observes his brothers in the dim, flickering candlelight. Their faces are unreadable, etched with the discipline of decades. Yet there is a softness in the way they hold their bodies, a relaxation that comes only from absolute, unwavering faith. They are not performing, they are simply being. The ritual is not a requirement to be met, but a space to be inhabited, a sanctuary of sound and intent that protects them from the encroaching chaos of the world. He realizes, with a flash of insight, that his own work, the menial physical act of folding and pressing, is the foundation upon which this spiritual architecture rests. Without the clean linens, without the order of the laundry, without the basic comforts of the living quarters, the focus required for such deep, sustained devotion would be much harder to achieve. His labor is not secondary to their prayer. It is a vital, integrated part of it. The chant continues, shifting in register and intensity, the harmonies weaving together in a complex yet profoundly simple tapestry of sound. He allows himself to be carried by the rhythm, his own voice joining the swell, feeling the power of the communal act. There is a safety in this, a sense of protection that feels tangible, as if the walls of the abbey were thickening, growing more impenetrable with every syllable they sing. He thinks of the mountain range outside, the peaks now shrouded in the vast, star-filled darkness of the Alpine night, and he feels a surge of profound gratitude. He is sheltered from the elements, sheltered from the demands of society, and sheltered within the framework of this daily, repetitive, and deeply meaningful existence. He is exactly where he is supposed to be, fulfilling the role he was meant to play in this ancient, silent drama. As the chant reaches its final sustained cadence, it feels as though the entire chapel is holding its breath. The silence that follows the last note is different from the silence that preceded it. It is deeper, richer, and more infused with the energy of their shared focus. He remains in his place, his eyes closed, soaking in the stillness. It is a moment of total integration, where the history of the abbey, the presence of his brothers, and his own internal reality collide and fuse into a single cohesive experience. He feels as though he could remain in this state forever, suspended in the cool, dark sanctuary, safe from the passage of time. But he knows that the cycle must continue, that the night will pass, and that the morning will bring the light back to the clerestory windows, the sun back to the valley, and the work back to the laundry cell. He rises with the others, the movement synchronized and fluid, a continuation of the harmony they have just created with their voices. They exit the chapel in the same procession, moving through the cold, dark corridors with the familiar ease of those who know every stone, every corner, and every shadow of their home. As he walks, he feels the chill of the night air, a sharp, bracing contrast to the warmth of the chapel. But he welcomes it. It is the real physical reality of the mountains, a reminder of the vast world that exists beyond their small protected circle. He reaches his cell, the door heavy and solid, and as he enters the small dark box, he feels a sense of profound, well-earned peace. He is home, his work is done, and he is ready to surrender himself to the dreamless restorative sleep that will prepare him for the next inevitable turn of the cycle. The transition into the deepest hours of the night is marked by a profound, almost audible silence that seems to press against the monastery walls from every direction. In his small stone-walled cell, the lay brother lies awake for a moment, listening to the mountain night. It is a world of immense power, characterized by the slow, grinding movement of glaciers and the restless, shifting currents of the wind through the high, jagged passes. This environment is indifferent to the small, ordered lives within the abbey, yet the monastery itself stands as a testament to the defiance of that indifference. By creating a space of extreme order and intentionality, the brothers have carved out a niche where the human spirit can thrive in the face of the vast, cold emptiness of the peaks. He finds himself thinking about the nature of this defiance. It is not an act of aggression, but one of persistent, quiet consistency, the consistent folding of linen, the consistent ringing of bells, the consistent gathering for prayer. It is in this consistency that the true strength of the abbey lies. His thoughts drift back to the laundry cell, which has become for him the epicenter of this consistency. He visualizes the way the light hits the floor in the morning, the way the air smells of mountain lavender, and the way the linen responds to the pressure of his palms. These are not merely tasks, they are anchors, points of reference that keep him grounded when the immensity of the world threatens to overwhelm him. He considers the paradox of his life. He is a man dedicated to humility and silence, yet he is participating in a grand historical tradition that has shaped the culture of the entire region. He is a link in a chain that goes back for centuries, a silent witness to the passage of time. The sheets he folded today will be used by men who will continue this cycle long after he is gone. There is a strange, quiet dignity in this, a sense of being part of something that is far larger than his own individual life. As he lies there, the cold of the mountains begins to seep through the stone, a subtle, creeping chill that encourages him to pull his wool coverlet tight. He does not mind the cold. It is a reminder of the reality of his environment, a physical connection to the rugged landscape of the Alps. He feels the texture of the linen sheet beneath the coverlet, the work of his own hands, and it provides a deep sense of comfort. It is the texture of human care, the material manifestation of the thought he has invested in his brother's well-being. He wonders for a fleeting moment what it would be like to experience the world outside, to see the cities of the plains, to hear the noise and the rush of a life lived without the structure of the monastery. But the thought is fleeting, a passing ripple on the still deep lake of his contentment. He cannot imagine any other way to live. The rhythm of the abbey is the rhythm of his own heart, and he is profoundly, inextricably at peace. He starts to drift into the threshold of sleep, his mind letting go of the deliberate logical structure of the day. The images that arise are softer, more fluid. He sees the abbey from a great distance, a tiny glowing jewel of order tucked into the jagged, dark folds of the mountain. He sees the flow of the monks' lives, a continuous, braided stream of activity and stillness, rising and falling like the tide of a great, calm ocean. He sees the linen not as separate pieces of cloth, but as a vast white landscape that connects them all, a unified field of cleanliness and grace. It is a beautiful abstract vision, one that feels more real than the stone walls of his cell or the weight of his own body. He feels himself sinking into this vision, the boundaries of his self dissolving, the sense of separate existence fading away until he is just another part of the grand, quiet architecture of the place. Sleep comes not as a darkness but as a deepening of the light. He is no longer concerned with the task of tomorrow or the memories of yesterday. He is fully, entirely present in the now, a state of being that he has worked his entire life to cultivate. The mountain wind continues to howl outside, a wild, elemental sound, but inside, in the heart of his dream, there is only the soft, rhythmic rustle of linen and the faint, sweet scent of lavender. He is a part of the Abbey, and the Abbey is a part of him. And in this symbiotic relationship, he finds the ultimate expression of his purpose. The night stretches out, a long, quiet interval of rest, and he moves through it with the confidence of one who knows that when the dawn breaks, he will return to his work, his prayer, and his peace. The cycle remains, the wheel turns, and he is held entirely and completely by the grace of the life he has chosen. The early morning hours in the Austrian Alps are characterized by a crisp, biting clarity that makes the distant snow-covered peaks appear as if they are etched directly into the indigo sky. Within the abbey, this time is the most sacred, the moment when the world is held in suspension before the demands of the day begin to stir. The lay brother wakes before the bells, his internal clock tuned to the subtle shifts in the temperature and the quality of the air. He lies still for a moment, enjoying the transition, feeling the cool, clean linen against his skin. This is the moment of pure potential, when the day is a blank slate, unwritten by the mistakes or the labor that will inevitably follow. He breathes in deeply, the air thin and sharp, carrying with it the faint, exhilarating promise of the coming dawn. He rises with a fluidity that speaks to his long years of monastic life. No wasted movement, no hesitation, no protest from his limbs. He dresses in the dim gray light of the pre-dawn, his habit settling around him with the familiar weighted comfort of a second skin. He opens his cell door and steps into the corridor, the stone under his feet feeling like a solid, unmoving presence that has supported thousands of brothers before him. There is a profound shared history in this walk, an unspoken communion with the past that he feels in the hollow of his chest. He passes the other cells, knowing that his brothers are currently moving through the same quiet, intentional preparations. There is a beauty in this uniformity, a sense of collective purpose that transcends the individual. As he makes his way toward the chapel, he notes the subtle shifts in the atmosphere. The darkness is losing its depth, turning into a soft charcoal gray. The stillness is absolute, yet it feels energized as if the entire abbey were bracing itself for the morning office. He enters the chapel, the interior bathed in the pale, ethereal glow of the very first light, filtering through the high clerestory windows. The space is vast, cold, and profoundly beautiful in its austerity. He takes his place, his hands tucked into the sleeves of his habit, and waits. The other brothers begin to arrive, their movements synchronized and silent, filling the space like water filling a reservoir. There is no urgency here, only a deep, abiding commitment to the ritual. The prayers begin not with a shout but with a whisper of song that grows in strength as more voices join the melody. He lets his own voice rise, feeling the resonance of the chant in the stone around him. This is the moment when the world is put into order, when the chaos of existence is addressed and contained by the discipline of the liturgy. He finds himself thinking of his laundry cell again, the table, the baskets, the pristine white linen. He sees his work as a tangible reflection of this ritual, a way of organizing the physical world into something as clean, structured, and harmonious as the music they are making together. The transition from the spiritual to the mundane is not a separation, it is a continuation. As the prayers conclude, the first real light of the sun crests over the mountains, flooding the valley and the abbey with a sudden brilliant gold. It is a transformation that feels miraculous every single time it happens. The chapel, which had been a place of shadow, is now alive with light, the dust motes dancing in the beams like particles of gold. He exits the chapel with a sense of clarity that is almost physical, his mind sharpened, his purpose renewed. He walks toward the laundry wing, the crisp mountain air filling his lungs, his heart light, his spirit in harmony with the rhythm of the day. The cycle has begun again, and he is ready to take his place within it, to fold the linen, to smooth the wrinkles, and to contribute his quiet, essential work to the beauty of the abbey. The day is fresh, the task is clear, and he is once again perfectly at home in the stillness of the mountains. The morning air in the laundry cell possesses a distinct, sharp vitality that arrives with the rising sun. As the brother pushes open the heavy oak-paneled door, he is met with the smell of stone, the remnants of yesterday's lavender, and a faint, invigorating scent of frost that clings to the high, arched windows. He moves with a deliberate, rhythmic grace, starting his day by tending to the hearth where the water is heated. It is a slow, methodical task tending the coals, ensuring the water in the massive copper vat reaches the perfect temperature. This is the foundation of his labor. Without the heat, there is no cleansing. Without the cleansing, there is no purity. He watches the steam rise, a curling white ghost that dances in the golden shafts of light piercing the clerestory windows, and he feels a deep, quiet gratitude for the simplicity of these physical necessities. He begins to sort the new bundle of linens, his fingers sorting through the fabric, heavier cottons for the kitchen, lighter linens for the infirmary, and the fine, delicate weaves for the brothers' own cells. Each piece tells a story. He knows which sheet belongs to which elder brother, which pillowcase has been washed and mended so many times that the fabric has become as soft as a whisper. He feels a connection to them, not through conversation or shared leisure, but through this act of service. He is caring for them in their most private, vulnerable moments, the hours of sleep and the hours of rest. He treats each piece as if it were a relic, smoothing the rough edges, checking for wear, and ensuring that everything is ready to be returned to the fold. His work is a silent conversation, a dialogue of care that requires no words to be deeply understood. As the morning deepens, the heat of the fire begins to radiate through the room, creating a cozy, warm pocket of air that contrasts with the cold stone walls. He finds himself caught in the steady, hypnotic pace of his movements. He is folding a large tablecloth now, an expensive piece of fabric that requires him to use his entire body. He steps back, stretches his arms, and then leans in, his palms creating a soft rhythmic friction against the weave. The sound is a gentle shush, such that becomes the pulse of the room. He is completely lost in the task. There is a sense of timelessness here. He could be in the year 1720, or 100 years before, or 100 years after. The act of folding remains the same, a human response to the chaos of the world, an attempt to bring order, beauty, and cleanliness into the space where he dwells. He pauses for a moment to watch the light change outside. The mountain peaks are now fully illuminated, their snow-dusted summits glittering like diamonds against the sky. The world is vast, wild, and largely inaccessible. Yet here he is, in his own small corner of the world, making a difference. He thinks of the brothers out in the field, their backs bent to the plow, their hands deep in the earth. Their labor is different from his, yet it is born of the same necessity to sustain the community, to provide for their needs, to ensure the Abbey continues its mission. He feels a surge of solidarity with them. He is not just folding sheets, he is supporting the men who sustain the Abbey. It is a vital link in a chain of mutual effort, and he finds a great sense of pride in his part of it. He finishes the cloth and moves on to the smaller linens, his movements quickening as he finds his rhythm. The baskets are filling up, the piles of neatly folded, lavender-scented sheets are growing, and the room feels filled with a new, fresh energy. He is walking with a sense of purpose that is both calm and invigorating. He knows that his day will be full, but he does not worry about the hours ahead. He only cares about the moment at hand, the fabric beneath his hands, the scent in the air, and the peace in his own heart. The laundry cell is his sanctuary, and he is the guardian of the quiet order that defines this space. As the morning progresses, he feels himself becoming more and more integrated into the rhythm of the Abbey, a small essential part of the grand daily cycle of prayer, work, and rest. The middle of the day finds the laundry cell bathed in a brilliant, unwavering light that makes every mote of dust visible, suspended in the golden beams like tiny drifting stars. The lay brother has settled into a state of profound meditative industry. The stacks of finished linens now dominate the oak table, a testament to the hours of careful rhythmic work he has invested since the first bells rang. Each pile is a testament to order, a victory of human intention over the inevitable entropy of daily life. He moves with an ease that suggests his body has forgotten the very concept of weariness. His hands, long and capable, navigate the fabric with a precision that feels almost musical. He is currently working on the heaviest sheets, the coarse undyed wool blends used in the common rooms, and there is a tactile satisfaction in the way the stiff fibers yield to his consistent, steady pressure. As he works, the silence of the afternoon rest, the great silence that falls over the monastery, begins to permeate the room. It is a different kind of quiet from the morning. It is heavier, more profound, a stillness that seems to emanate from the very stone walls of the abbey. The monks have retreated to their cells or the garden, leaving the corridors and cloisters completely deserted. He feels as though he is the only person left in the world, the sole inhabitant of this grand vaulted space. It is not a lonely feeling, but a deeply centered one. He is the guardian of the abbey's cleanliness, the silent invisible force that ensures everything is ready for the brothers when they emerge from their solitude. This awareness adds a layer of sanctity to his work. He is not just doing a chore, he is performing a vital hidden ministry. If you find yourself seeking this kind of deep, restorative quiet in your own life, we encourage you to subscribe to our channel. Join our growing community of listeners who value the power of historical reflection and the tranquility of slow, mindful storytelling. By subscribing, you ensure that you never miss a moment of our journey back into the past, helping us continue to cultivate this digital sanctuary for everyone who needs a break from the noise of the modern world. He pauses, just for a moment, to look through the clerestory windows toward the distant shimmering glaciers. The contrast between the cold, indifferent majesty of the mountains and the warm, fragrant odor of the laundry cell is a source of quiet wonder for him. He realizes that this is the essence of his vocation to create a home that is worthy of the divine, a space that is so meticulously cared for that it reflects the purity and peace they all strive for in their prayers. The lavender scent, which had been subtle in the morning, now seems to hang heavy in the air, a soothing floral perfume that seems to soften the harsh edges of the stone and wood. It is the signature of his labor, the invisible mark he leaves on the abbey, a gentle, fragrant promise of comfort. He turns back to the table, picking up the last piece of the day's work, a small, delicate headcloth used by the elderly brother who serves as the abbey's librarian. He handles it with extra care, knowing how much the old man values his ritual. The way he sits in the dim parchment-smelling light of the library, lost in the study of ancient texts. He imagines the brother placing this cloth on his table, feeling the coolness of the laundered fabric, and he feels a surge of genuine affection. This is the beauty of his role. He is the one who touches the fabric of their lives, the one who provides the tangible comfort that allows them to pursue their higher purpose. The final fold is made, the corner tucked in with surgical precision, and he stands back, his breath slow and even. The work is complete. He feels a deep, abiding satisfaction, a sense of wholeness that settles into his bones like warmth. He is ready to leave the room, to let the shadows lengthen across the flagstones, and to transition into the evening, his heart light and his duty fulfilled. The departure from the laundry cell in the late afternoon is a transition into a world that has slowed down to match the descent of the sun. The lay brother steps out into the cloister, and the air is noticeably cooler, carrying the first hints of the mountain evening. The abbey is still wrapped in the thick, heavy silence of the pre-vespers hour. He walks with the deliberate pace of a man who has finished his labor, his muscles feeling loose and humming with a dull, satisfied ache. As he moves along the vaulted corridor, he is aware of the way the light is changing. The once golden shafts are now becoming long, attenuated streaks of amber and violet stretching across the flagstones like memories of the day's work. He finds himself pausing at a small arched window that overlooks the valley, watching as the shadow of the peaks begins to swallow the green meadows below. There is a sense of completion that he carries with him, a quiet internal weight that feels like a physical grounding. He thinks of the stack of linens now resting on the shelves in the dormitory, the white towers of order that he has built with his own hands. They are there, waiting for the return of his brothers, a silent, fragrant assurance that their needs have been met. This is his contribution, his quiet, essential thread in the vast, complex tapestry of the monastic life. He doesn't need recognition. The satisfaction of the act itself is the reward. It is a form of prayer, a way of giving himself to the community, and in that giving, he finds the freedom to be himself. He walks on his footsteps, echoing softly in the vaulted space, the sound returning to him like a friendly, familiar greeting. He reaches the infirmary section, where the air is slightly warmer and smells faintly of crushed herbs and medicinal oils. He stops to see if there is any extra linen needed, his head bowing slightly as he passes the open door of the infirmary's quiet space. One of the brothers is sitting by the window, the soft light catching the gray in his beard, his head bowed over an open book. There is a profound stillness in the room, a sacred focused energy that he respects. He moves on, not wanting to disturb the quiet. The entire abbey is a series of these small focused environments, each one a testament to the dedication of the men who live here. He feels a deep, abiding connection to them all, a shared, silent understanding of the path they have chosen. They are all here, in the heart of the Alps, living a life of intentionality and grace. As he approaches the kitchen wing, He hears the distant rhythmic sound of wooden ladles hitting iron pots, the preparation for the evening meal. The scent of broth, garlic, and freshly baked bread begins to mingle with the cool pine-scented air of the corridors, a comforting earthly fragrance that reminds him that he too is a man with a physical need for nourishment. He isn't hungry in the urgent sense, but he feels the necessity of the coming meal, the way it serves as another anchor for the day. He finds himself looking forward to the shared silent eating, the communal focus on the simple, honest food that sustains them. It is the end of the day's exertion, the time to let go of the chores and return to the center of their collective existence. He finds his way to the washroom near the refectory, where he splashes his face with cold water from the basin. The shock is invigorating, a sensory reset that clears the dust of the laundry room from his eyes and skin. He dries himself with a towel he has brought from the laundry, a thin, slightly worn piece that feels soft and familiar. He is ready for the evening. He is clean, his work is done, and his mind is settled. He stands for a moment by the entrance to the refectory, feeling the quiet pulse of the abbey as it prepares for the transition into night. The mountains are now dark silhouettes against the twilight, the first stars beginning to emerge, and he feels a deep, enduring peace. He is exactly where he is meant to be, participating in the quiet, unfolding mystery of the monastery's day, and he is, for this moment, entirely, profoundly content. The evening meal in the refectory is a slow meditative affair that marks the final significant transition of the monastic day. The hall itself is grand, with soaring stone arches that disappear into the dark, shadowed rafters above, and the only illumination comes from the rhythmic dancing flames of the iron wall sconces. The lay brother takes his place at the communal table, his movements practiced and unobtrusive. Around him, his brothers sit in the same disciplined composure, their heads slightly bowed. There is no conversation. The only sounds are the soft clatter of wooden spoons against ceramic bowls and the distant, muffled wind sighing against the high, thick walls of the abbey. This silence is not empty. It is a weight, a shared presence that binds them together. He eats the thin, warm soup with gratitude, feeling the heat spreading through his body, a gentle earthly feel that complements the spiritual focus of the evening. He finds himself observing the way the candlelight catches the textures of the room, the rough hand-hewn wood of the tables, the cool, polished stone of the floor, the heavy wool of the brothers' habits. It is a world of elemental materials, a life stripped of the superfluous. He thinks of the linen in the dormitory, the crisp, clean piles he prepared, and he feels a deep, quiet satisfaction that the brothers will retire to their comfort in just a few hours. This is the culmination of his day, a cycle that began with the rising sun, moved through the labor of the laundry, and now settles into the peace of the evening. He is a part of this architecture of care, a silent, invisible helper who ensures the continuity of the community's life. As he finishes his meal, he feels a profound sense of integration. He is not just a man in an abbey, he is a functioning piece of the abbey itself. The departure from the refectory is as orderly as the arrival. The brothers stand in unison, the sound of their movement a soft collective rustle that echoes briefly in the high-vaulted space. They make their way toward the chapel, their shadows stretching out before them, long and distorted in the flickering golden light. The night air outside is sharper now, the temperature having dropped significantly as the stars take possession of the sky. The beauty of the Alpine night is breathtaking, a vast crystalline dome of diamond-like lights that seem to vibrate with an ancient cold energy. He stops for just a heartbeat in the cloister to look up, his breath visible in the air as a small fleeting cloud. It is a moment of total perspective. The mountains, the stars, the cold, they are the permanent reality, and their life in the abbey is a deliberate, fragile, and beautiful response to that immensity. Inside the chapel, The atmosphere has deepened into something more profound than during the morning hours. The incense is heavier, a rich dark fragrance that seems to cling to the stone, and the darkness in the corners of the nave is absolute, a velvet void that suggests the depths of the night. The monks take their places, and as the first note of the office of complaint begins, it feels as though they are singing directly into the dark, a small, stubborn flame of light against the encroaching shadow. He joins in his voice, finding its place in the harmony, the familiar cadence of the chant rising up to meet the high, cold darkness of the roof. He is not thinking about the laundry or the folding or the physical fatigue. He is entirely absorbed by the sound, by the collective breath, and by the shared, unwavering focus of the community. As the final lingering note of the chant dies away, the chapel seems to hold the vibration, a dying ember of sound that remains in the air for a heartbeat before dissolving into the total profound silence of the night. He remains in his place for a long quiet moment, his eyes closed, his hands folded in his lap. He is at peace. The day has been a complete, coherent experience, a tapestry woven with care, labor, and prayer. As he rises and begins the walk back to the dormitory, his pace is slow, measured, and entirely without hurry. The corridors are dark, lit only by the starlight that spills through the narrow slits in the walls. He enters his cell, the door a solid, reassuring barrier against the world, and he prepares for sleep, his mind already drifting toward the quiet, rhythmic dreams that will sustain him until the morning. He is, in every sense, exactly where he is meant to be, a small, dedicated light in the heart of the mountains. The profound, heavy silence of the deepest part of the night is a living entity within the walls of the abbey, a blanket of stillness that seems to suspend time itself. In the dormitory, the air is cold and crisp, carrying the sharp, clean scent of high-altitude stone and the faint, sweet residue of the lavender sachets tucked among the linens. The lay brother lies in the dark, his senses perfectly attuned to the subtle, almost imperceptible shifts in the environment. He can hear the distant grinding murmur of the mountain glaciers, a sound so old and slow that it feels like the heartbeat of the earth itself, and the occasional sharp snap of the structure shifting as the temperature continues to plummet. He is not afraid, instead, he feels a strange, profound sense of security. Being here, in the heart of this ancient stone-bound fortress, is the ultimate expression of being protected, held in the palm of a larger, deliberate design. He recalls the events of the day as a series of images, a slight show of light and movement. He sees the golden dust in the laundry cell, the way the sunlight hit the wet flagstones in the morning, the repetitive, soothing motion of his hands as they smoothed the fabric, and the faces of his brothers as they moved through their own rituals. It is a peaceful, orderly existence, and the fact that he is the one who tends to the practical needs of this community gives him a quiet, inward confidence. He thinks of the linen sheets now perfectly folded and stacked, ready to provide comfort to those who have dedicated their lives to the service of the divine. This cycle of care, from the harvesting of the flax to the final fold in the cell, is a complete, hermetic seal of purpose. He is not merely a worker, he is a keeper of the community's basic vital comforts. As he drifts toward the deeper strata of sleep, his mind begins to soften and expand. The boundaries of the cell seem to melt away, and he finds himself wandering through the landscape of his own consciousness, a place of soft, diffuse light and endless rhythmic cycles. He experiences the movement of folding not as a chore, but as a flight, an expansive, soaring motion that defies the weight of his own body and the gravity of the physical world. He is the linen, he is the air, he is the silence of the night, and he is the light that will eventually return to the clerestory windows. There is no distinction anymore between his effort and the result. He is simply an expression of the monastic life, a human thread woven into a much larger eternal tapestry. The dream shifts, becoming more tactile and grounding. He is back in the laundry, but everything is made of light. The stacks of laundry are towers of brilliant, white radiance, and the lavender scent is so strong it feels like he is breathing in the essence of the mountain flowers themselves. The work is no longer work. It is an effortless, infinite dance of order and harmony. He feels a deep, abiding joy in this vision, the joy of having found his place in the world, the joy of having committed himself to a path that is true, and the joy of knowing that his labor is not in vain. He feels the presence of his brothers, even in his sleep, a collective, silent consciousness that permeates the entire abbey. They are a single breathing entity, a sanctuary of intention in the midst of the vast indifferent wilderness. He is suddenly, gently put back toward the surface of wakefulness by the distant crystalline chiming of the pre-dawn bell. It is a faint ethereal sound that drifts down from the belfry, a tiny piercing note in the massive silence of the mountain night. He doesn't wake fully, but he recognizes the call, his spirit answering it, even as his body remains deeply relaxed. The cycle is approaching its end, and the rebirth of the day is just moments away. He feels a sense of deep, profound gratitude for the return of the morning, for the continuation of his service, and for the life that has been given to him here, in this quiet, stone-walled heart of the Alps. He allows the sound to pull him slowly toward the dawn, his mind already beginning to prepare for the return of the light, the return of the work, and the return of the peace that defines his existence. The night has been a gift, a period of restoration, and he is ready to begin again, to play his part in the quiet, unfolding drama of the day. The great dawn light filters into the dormitory with a hesitant, ghostly quality, barely illuminating the rough-hewn stone walls and the heavy wooden beams that stretch across the ceiling. For the lay brother, this is the most anticipated moment of the entire day, the transition from the abyss of sleep into the conscious reality of service. He lies perfectly still, his body feeling heavy and well rested, a result of the steady rhythmical life he has embraced. He can feel the cold air pressing against the fabric of his thin wool blanket, a reminder of the altitude and the rugged mountain environment that surrounds the abbey. It is a bracing, clean cold, a physical manifestation of the clarity he seeks in his own life. He breathes in slowly, the air tasting of ancient mountain snow and the lingering faint scent of incense that seems to permeate the very fabric of the monastery. His morning routine is a master class in economy and grace. He rises the straw beneath him, rustling with a familiar dry sound, and he dresses in the dimness without a single wasted motion. Each article of his habit has its designated place, a testament to the order he values. As he secures his belt, he feels the weight of his commitment, a sensation that is less like a burden and more like a grounding, a solid anchor that keeps him steady regardless of what the day might bring. He opens the cell door, and the corridor stretches out before him, a long, quiet artery of shadow and stone. He walks toward the chapel, his footsteps silent on the flagstones, and as he passes the other cells, he senses the quiet collective stirrings of his brothers. They are all beginning their day in this same way, a deliberate shift from the internal world of dreams to the external world of prayer and action. The chapel is a vessel of silence, and as he enters, the transition is complete. The atmosphere is thick with the history of the place. He can almost feel the prayers of centuries past hanging in the air, a spiritual residue that comforts and challenges him. He takes his place in the stalls, the wood cool and polished beneath his hands, and waits. The first tentative bells begin to ring, a series of deep resonant tolls that seem to vibrate through the very marrow of his bones. This is the heartbeat of the abbey. The monks enter, their figures hooded and anonymous in the flickering, low light, and the silence is replaced by the soft rhythmic chanting that marks the beginning of lauds. He joins in, his voice finding its pitch, and he feels the familiar resonant swell of the communal sound filling the space, driving away the last vestiges of the night. This morning, the chant takes on a particular shimmering quality. It feels as though they are not just singing, but actively building something, a bridge between the earthly and the divine, a scaffold of sound that supports the weight of their intention. He thinks of the laundry cell again, the way it will soon be filled with the bright, harsh light of the morning sun, and he realizes that his work is the terrestrial version of this prayer. The linen, the water, the soap, the heat, all of these things are the tools of his liturgy, the means by which he expresses his devotion to the community and his commitment to the life he has chosen. He is creating a clean, orderly space for his brothers to live in, and in doing so, he is fulfilling his role as the caretaker of their physical and therefore spiritual comfort. As the prayers reach their crescendo and then slowly fade back into the profound expectant silence, the light outside begins to shift from gray to a brilliant pale gold. The sun is cresting the mountains, and soon the high clerestory windows will be ablaze with color. He feels a surge of vitality, a clean, sharp, and focused energy that makes him eager to get to work. He exits the chapel, moving into the courtyard where the frost on the ground is already beginning to melt, turning into a fine shimmering mist that rises toward the sky. He walks toward the laundry wing, the crisp mountain air filling his lungs, his heart light, and his spirit entirely, perfectly at ease. The day is fresh, the task is clear, and he is ready to take his place within the grand eternal cycle of the Abbey, to contribute his labor, to find his peace, and to live in the light of the morning. The morning light descends into the laundry cell with a slow, deliberate majesty, turning the atmosphere into a cathedral of dust motes dancing in golden shafts. The lay brother stands at the heart of this space, his movements echoing the stillness of the mountains outside. He has already begun the process of heating the water, the copper vessel singing a low, deep note as the temperature rises. He watches the plume of steam, a white ephemeral ribbon that curls and dissolves into the higher, cooler air of the ceiling. Everything is consistent. Everything is in its place. He begins by unfolding a stack of heavy coarse linens that have spent the night drying in the crisp Alpine air. They are stiff with the frost of the night, cold to the touch, and carrying a sharp, exhilarating scent of pine and high-altitude purity. He works with a focus that transcends mere labor. As he spreads the fabric across the broad, seasoned oak table, he feels the weight and texture of the fibers, the history of the loom, the flax, and the hands that worked it. He is a mediator between the raw, elemental world and the needs of his brothers. He takes the stiff cloth and, using the heavy iron press, begins the process of softening it, of smoothing the wrinkles of its existence until it becomes supple and inviting. The sound of the iron, a rhythmic sliding friction, becomes the baseline of his day. It is a grounding sound, a heartbeat that keeps the chaos of the world at bay. He finds that when his hands are occupied in this way, his mind is free to roam, yet he always returns to the center of his duty. He thinks of the history of this abbey, the centuries of monks who have walked these corridors, whose hands have touched these same stone walls. He is but one moment in a very long chain, a single note in the endless echoing hymn of devotion. This realization does not make him feel small. Rather, it provides him with a profound sense of scale. He is participating in something that is not concerned with the temporary, the trivial, or the fleeting. He is building his life on the bedrock of the eternal. The silence of the laundry cell is not the absence of sound, but the presence of a deep, focused attention. He feels the abbey breathing around him, the quiet movement of the brothers in the library, the rhythmic digging of those in the garden, the distant muffled chant of those in the chapel. They are all working in harmony, each fulfilling a part of the greater collective purpose. As the sun climbs higher, the room becomes warmer, the scent of lavender from the nearby drying racks deepening into something more resonant and earthy. He pauses, just for a moment, to look through the clerestory window toward the jagged, snow-capped peaks that dominate the horizon. They are immovable, indifferent, and infinitely beautiful. They remind him that the world is much larger than the Abbey, yet the Abbey is the lens through which he understands that world. In this small sequestered space, he has found the key to a meaningful existence, to perform the smallest task with the greatest possible care. If he can bring order to a single sheet, he can bring order to his own soul. If he can bring cleanliness to the abbey, he can contribute to the purity of the community's devotion. It is a humble, quiet, and profoundly satisfying philosophy. He returns to the table, his movements fluid and efficient. He is working through the final bundle of the morning, and the pile of folded pristine linens is growing. A white architectural achievement that stands as a testament to his focus. He finds that he is not tiring. Instead, he feels energized, his body moving with an ease that comes from the perfect alignment of purpose and action. He is doing exactly what he was meant to do, in the place he was meant to be, at the time he was meant to be. There is no conflict in his heart, no division in his mind. He is entirely present, entirely devoted, and entirely at peace. As the clock moves toward the midday bell, he feels the first gentle anticipation of the break in his labor, a moment of rest that will only serve to sharpen his focus for the task of the afternoon. The cycle continues. The world turns, and he is right where he belongs. The transition from the intense, concentrated labor of the morning into the quiet, expansive middle of the day is marked by the shifting light in the laundry cell. The sun now, at its zenith, pours a vertical, brilliant illumination through the high windows, turning the entire room into a space of blinding clarity. The lay brother works on his rhythm so deeply ingrained that his body seems to operate independently of his conscious thought. He is currently focused on the heavy woven outer cloths, items of great significance that require the utmost care and respect. As he glides the iron over the thick embroidered fabric, he feels the slight resistance of the thread and the depth of the weave. Every movement is a form of prayer, a tactile expression of reverence for the sacred objects he is trusted to maintain. There is a profound meditative stillness in the room. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. Caught in the suspension of the midday heat, he can hear the faint rhythmic ticking of the abbey's ancient clock, somewhere deep in the masonry, a reminder of the relentless, steady passage of time. He realizes that he is not just working with cloth, he's working with time itself, sorting, folding, and preparing, ensuring that every moment is utilized with the same level of intentionality that he brings to his chores. He is the guardian of the present, the one who ensures that the community can live in this moment without the distraction of disorder or the weight of neglect. It is a vital, invisible service that anchors the entire monastery in the immediate, tangible reality of their shared existence. He finds himself reflecting on the nature of his solitude in the world outside. He suspects that such quiet would be seen as a deprivation, a lack of connection or experience, but here, within the walls of the abbey, solitude is a vessel for connection. By stepping away from the noise and the frantic demands of the external world, he has found a way to be more profoundly connected to the people around him. His labor in the laundry is not an act of separation, it is an act of communion. Every time he folds a sheet for a brother, he is thinking of that brother, of the work he does, and of the prayers he offers. He is serving them in the most intimate, essential way possible. He is providing the foundation upon which their communal life is built. This is his ministry, and it is more than enough. As the afternoon light begins to tilt, casting longer, more dramatic shadows across the flagstone floor, he begins to see the fruits of his day, the stacks of finished laundry, perfectly aligned, and smelling of mountain lavender, stand like silent sentinels on the great oak table. He feels a sense of quiet pride, not pride in himself, but in the work itself, and in the harmony it represents. He is a part of this, a small functioning gear in a great cosmic machine of devotion. The intensity of the morning has softened, replaced by a steady, persistent flow of activity that feels both light and essential. He is in the flow, that rare, precious state where the distinction between the self and the task disappears, leaving only the reality of the work itself. He turns to clear the remaining tools of his trade, moving with a grace that has been honed by thousands of repetitions. He wipes the table clean, the cloth sweeping across the wood with a soft whisper-like sound. He puts away the iron, checks the water level in the copper vat, and ensures that the baskets are neatly arranged. Every action is a final note in a day-long composition, a closing phrase that brings the labor to its logical and peaceful conclusion. As he approaches the door to leave the room, he takes a final look back. The laundry cell is clean, ordered and expectant, ready to welcome him back. When the sun rises again, he feels a deep, abiding contentment settle into his chest. His duty is fulfilled, his purpose is realized, and he is ready to move into the evening, carrying the peace of his labor with him, like a soft, invisible light. He steps out into the corridor, the cool stone beneath his sandals, and walks toward the Vespers bell, his mind clear, his heart quiet, and his spirit entirely, perfectly at peace. The golden hour of the afternoon brings a transformative amber quality to the abbey, a light so rich it seems to thicken the air and soften the rigid geometry of the stone walls. The lay brother emerges from the laundry, his habit slightly dusted with lint, his movements slow and deliberate as he navigates the corridors toward the cloister. The transition from the focused, heat-filled environment of his workstation to the cool, quiet openness of the courtyard is a physical relief. He stops for a moment beneath the arcade, leaning his hand against a cold moss-tinged column, and looks out at the garden. The shadows are long and cool, stretching across the carefully tended rows of herbs, and the air is filled with the scent of late-blooming mountain flowers, a delicate herbal fragrance that grounds him in the reality of the season. He thinks about the concept of the day's closure. In the world beyond the peaks, he imagines that the end of the day is often marked by a sense of exhaustion or the desperate attempt to finish remaining tasks. Here, however, the end of the day is a deliberate, orchestrated descent into stillness. It's not an ending, but a turning, a pivot point that shifts the energy of the community from the external work of the hands to the internal work of the heart. He feels this shift in his own body. The tension that had been held in his shoulders during the morning has dissipated, replaced by a supple, relaxed awareness. He is ready to move into the evening phase of the monastic rhythm, where the focus is no longer on what he can produce, but on what he can receive. The grace of the silence, the wisdom of the text, and the company of his brothers. As he makes his way toward the common room, he encounters one of the older brothers walking in the opposite direction. They do not speak. Instead, they exchange a small, nearly imperceptible bow of the head, a recognition of their shared journey. In that simple, wordless gesture, there is a lifetime of understanding. He feels a deep, quiet affection for his brothers, a feeling that goes beyond friendship and enters the realm of family. They are all here in this remote, high-altitude sanctuary, bound by a common invisible thread. He realizes that his work in the laundry is, in essence, a way of caring for this family, a way of ensuring that their physical needs are met so they can focus on their spiritual commitment. This realization deepens his sense of belonging. He is not just a participant in a routine, he is a vital, cared for, and caring member of a living, breathing community. The common room is already filling with the soft amber glow of twilight. The brothers are gathered in groups of two or three, some reading, others simply staring into the small, flickering fire that has been lit against the creeping cold of the night. He finds a chair in a quiet corner, the wood polished smooth by years of use, and settles in. He does not need to talk. He simply sits and allows the environment to do its work. The silence here is dense and comforting, a buffer against the vastness of the mountain world outside. He feels his breathing slow, his heartbeat settling into a rhythm that matches the stillness of the room. He is completely, utterly at home. There is nowhere else he would rather be, and nothing else he would rather be doing. As the light continues to fade, turning the room into a space of deep velvet shadows, he feels a sense of profound gratitude. He is grateful for the work he did today, for the order he brought to the linen, for the warmth of the hearth, and for the simple, honest presence of his brothers. He is grateful for the challenges of the morning, for they made the peace of the evening all the more significant. He is grateful for the mountains that provide the boundary of his world, for their cold hard beauty reminds him to keep his perspective clear and his heart focused. He closes his eyes and allows himself to drift into the quiet, reflective space of his own thoughts, waiting for the evening bell to call them to the final prayer. He is a part of the Abbey, a small, quiet, and essential part of the tapestry, and in this awareness he finds the ultimate, enduring, and perfect contentment. The day is almost gone, but the spirit of the day remains a steady, quiet flame in the heart of the night. The transition from the communal peace of the common room into the profound, shadow-filled sanctuary of the chapel, for the final office of the day, is a journey through layers of silence. As the lay brother walks the familiar path, the air grows increasingly cold, carrying the sharp, crisp scent of high-altitude night. He is acutely aware of every stone beneath his sandals, the weight of his habit shifting with his gait, and the steady, rhythmic pulsing of his own heart. The Abbey at this hour is a place of deep, almost primordial quiet, as if the entire structure were holding its breath, waiting for the final concluding act of the daily liturgy to seal the day in sanctity. He enters the chapel, and the darkness is absolute, save for the few flickering points of light from the beeswax candles that cast long, dancing shadows against the vaulted ceiling. He takes his place in the stalls, and the act of sitting down feels like settling into a familiar, protective embrace. The wood is cold, but as he remains still, his body warmth begins to make it feel almost human, a connection that spans generations. He is surrounded by his brothers, their silhouettes motionless in the dark, and he feels the collective energy of their presence, a field of quiet, focused intent that is far more powerful than the sum of its parts. When the first note of the Compline chant rises, it doesn't seem to originate from the air, but from the depths of the stone walls themselves, a low, resonant frequency that vibrates through his chest and anchors his entire being. He joins the song, his voice blending perfectly into the harmony, and he realizes that this is the purpose of his labor to maintain the order of the material, so that the spirit may soar in this way, unencumbered and free. As the chant unfolds, the complex, polyphonic melodies weaving together, he finds his mind drifting into a state of total meditative clarity. The images of his day, the heaps of linen, the steam from the copper vat, the sunlight on the flagstones recede, replaced by a sense of vast unfolding light. He is no longer in the chapel, he is in the heart of a great cosmic order where every action, no matter how small, has its place and its meaning. The struggle, the labor, and the fatigue of the day fall away, leaving behind a distilled essence of peace. He understands now that his service in the laundry was not a burden but an initiation, a way to learn how to handle the raw materials of existence with care, respect, and devotion. By tending to the linens of his brothers, he was tending to the sacredness of their shared life, and in that he found his own salvation. The final prayer is said in the absolute, crushing silence that follows the music. a moment where the entire community seems to merge into a single unified consciousness. It is a terrifying and beautiful experience to lose the sense of the self and to become part of something so much larger, so much more enduring. When the brothers begin to stand, the sound is subtle, a rustle of fabric that feels like the fluttering of wings in the dark. They exit as they entered in a silent, orderly procession that acknowledges the sacredness of the space they have inhabited. He walks back toward the dormitory, and the night air is so sharp it feels like it could cut through his very soul, refreshing, invigorating, and absolutely real. He is tired, but it is a good, deep, and honest exhaustion that he welcomes with open arms. The stillness that descends upon the monastery at the stroke of midnight is not merely an absence of noise, but a heavy velvet textured presence that seems to fill the very air with a sense of expectation. In his small stone cell, the lay brother lies in the absolute darkness, his eyes open and staring into the void, yet seeing only the inner landscape of his own peaceful mind. He is at that precipice between the exhaustion of the day and the restorative depth of the night. His body feels like a weightless anchor, detached from the toil and the physical reality of the laundry, yet entirely connected to the rhythm of the abbey. The cold that permeates the walls is not a discomfort, but a reminder of the altitude, a physical manifestation of the boundary he has set between himself and the chaotic, shifting world below. He listens to the wind as it brushes against the high pointed windows, a sound like a long drawn out sigh from the mountain itself, and he feels a deep fraternal bond with that elemental force. It is as if the mountain and the abbey are in a constant silent dialogue, one that he is privileged to witness, but not required to understand. He thinks back to the fabric he handled earlier, the sheer volume of cotton and linen that passes through his hands each day, each thread a testament to human endeavor. He realizes that there is a strange quiet holiness in the mundane. Most people outside these walls would see only the act of cleaning, the removal of dust, and the straightening of creases, but he has learned that the act itself is a meditation. When he smooths a wrinkled sheet, he is also smoothing the internal discord of his own thoughts. When he scrubs a stubborn stain, he is in his own way cleansing the spirit of the community. This is his ministry, the quiet, humble work that supports the more visible liturgical work of the choir monks. He is the keeper of the foundation, the one who ensures that the physical world is prepared for the spiritual life. This realization fills him with a profound, unshakable sense of purpose. He is not a peripheral character in the story of the Abbey. He is the quiet architect of the conditions that make the story possible. As he begins to sink into the first light layers of sleep, he starts to envision the structure of the monastery from above. He sees it as a radiant glowing geometry, a white cross of light embedded in the dark jagged tip of the Alpine peaks. He sees the movement of the monks through the cloisters as a slow, rhythmic pulse of life, a constant flow of prayer that sustains the entire valley. He imagines himself as a part of that flow, a single glowing particle in a grand, harmonious mechanism. The sense of self starts to fray at the edges, merging with the stone, the air, and the silent heavy weight of the night. He is no longer just a lay brother. He is the laundry cell. He is the stone corridor. He is the smell of lavender and the cold mountain frost. The boundary between the observer and the observed is entirely erased. He is at home, not just in his cell, but in the universe itself. His dreams, when they come, are not visual in the way of waking life. They are sensations of movement and light. He feels himself floating through the vaulted arches of the chapel, his spirit ascending toward the high, dark ceiling where the shadows dwell. There is a sense of immense liberating freedom in this, a release from the gravity of his physical responsibilities. Yet, even in the dream, he remains anchored by the memory of the work. He sees the stacks of linens rising into the air, turning into white, shimmering clouds of purity that drift out through the windows and settle over the mountain passes, protecting the valley below. It is a comforting, expansive vision, one that tells him his work is not merely a task, but a contribution to the safety and the order of the world beyond the monastery walls. He is a guardian of peace, a quiet sentry standing watch in the heart of the peaks. He wakes momentarily to the sound of the wind, which has intensified, a howling, rhythmic presence that rattles the heavy wooden shutters of his cell. He reaches out a hand to touch the wall, the stone cold and solid under his palm, and he feels an immediate grounding connection. The world outside may be wild, untamed, and indifferent to human fate. But here, in the sanctuary he has helped to maintain, everything is held. The storm will pass, the sun will return, and he will rise to fulfill the cycle once more. There is no anxiety in this thought, only a calm, inevitable certainty. He turns on his side, pulls the wool blanket tighter, and allows himself to be put back down into the depths of sleep. The silence returns, the mountain holds its breath, and he is gone, surrendered to the quiet, dark heart of the night, waiting with the patient wisdom of his calling for the first sign of the coming light. The dawn of a new day arrives, not with a shout, but with a gradual, almost timid lightening of the sky, turning the jagged, ink-black silhouettes of the Alps into cold gray stone. In the dormitory, the lay brother is already awake, his eyes tracing the slow migration of the light across the ceiling. He finds this transitionary hour to be the most fertile for reflection, a time when the mind is still untethered from the immediate requirements of labor and can instead wander freely through the corridors of memory and faith. He contemplates the sheer tenacity of his existence, the way he and his brothers have managed to carve out a life of such intense intentional stillness within the heart of such a wild, unpredictable landscape. It is a testament to the power of the human spirit to create its own order, to dictate the terms of its own existence against the backdrop of an indifferent and vast natural world. He feels a quiet, steady pride in this, not a pride of ego, but a deep, resonant satisfaction in the resilience of their communal life. As he prepares to rise, his movements are characterized by the same practiced economical grace that defines all his actions. He washes his face in the cold, clear water from the basin, the shock of the temperature waking his senses, sharpening his mind, and grounding him firmly in the present. He dresses with care, his fingers finding the familiar rough texture of his habit, the weight of which acts as a physical reminder of his vows. Each button, each fold of the cloth is a small act of devotion, a way of signaling to himself that the time for reflection is drawing to a close and the time for action is beginning. He steps into the corridor, the stone beneath his feet cool and solid, and he begins the familiar silent walk toward the chapel. The air is still holding the crisp, clean scent of the high altitude, and he feels a surge of vitality, a clean, sharp energy that makes him eager to engage with the world of his daily chores. The chapel is currently a place of deep shadow mystery, the only light coming from the faint ethereal glow of the morning stars visible through the clerestory windows. He finds his stall, the wood polished smooth by the hands of countless brothers before him, and he settles into the familiar kneeling position. The arrival of the other brothers is like the gradual assembly of a single coherent body, each movement silent, synchronized, and filled with purpose. When the first note of the office is intoned, it is not just a sound, it is an opening, a lifting of a veil. He joins in his voice, finding its resonance, and he feels the vibration of the chant in his own chest, a sympathetic frequency that unites him with every other man in the room. This is the foundation of their life. The return to this space, the return to this sound, the return to this communal, shared commitment to something that is far, far greater than any one of them individually. As the prayers proceed, the sky outside begins to shift, moving from gray to a soft, luminous violet. He reflects on the laundry cell, imagining the way the sunlight will soon flood the space, turning the dust motes into tiny suspended jewels. He sees his work there not as a repetition of tasks, but as a repetition of love, a way of continuously expressing his commitment to his brothers, of ensuring that their physical environment reflects the purity and order they strive for in their hearts. He is their servant, and in their service he finds his freedom. He is their brother, and in their brotherhood he finds his strength. The realization is simple, yet it carries a weight and a depth that he feels he could spend a lifetime exploring. It is the core of his vocation, the secret to the contentment that he has found here in the high silent mountains. When the service concludes, the world is fully awake, the sun having crested the peaks and flooding the valley with a brilliant golden light. He exits the chapel, his mind clear, his body ready for the work, and his spirit light. He walks toward the laundry wing, observing the subtle, beautiful details of the morning. The frost on the garden walls, the way the light glints off the icicles hanging from the roof, the quiet, rhythmic sounds of the abbey waking up. He is ready for the day. He is ready to handle the fabric, to tend the water, to keep the order, and to contribute his part to the great unfolding mystery of the monastery's existence. There is no struggle, no hesitation, no doubt. He is exactly where he is meant to be, participating in the quiet, unfolding drama of the day, with the full, complete commitment of a man who has finally, after a long search, found his true and proper place in the world. The mid-morning air in the laundry cell possesses a crisp, alpine clarity that seems to vibrate with the sheer intensity of the light filtering through the high arched windows. The laborer stands at the long oak table, his hands moving with an practiced, almost hypnotic rhythm as he folds a large, heavy sheet of bleached linen. The fabric is cool, crisp, and carries the faint lingering scent of lavender and mountain wind. For him, this is not merely a task, it is an act of communion. Every fold, every smooth crease, every alignment of corners is a deliberate expression of care for his brothers, a silent contribution to the environment of purity and order that defines the monastery's life. He reflects on how the physical act of cleaning and organizing serves as a direct mirror to the spiritual discipline of the chapel. Just as the monks purge their hearts of distraction during prayer, he purges the ligands of the stains and wrinkles of the world, preparing them for a life of service and quiet contemplation. He pauses momentarily to watch a sparrow flitting across the high stone-walled enclosure of the exterior garden, its flight a brief, energetic flicker against the backdrop of the immovable snow-capped peaks. There is a profound grounding beauty in this contrast. The fleeting fragile life of the bird and the eternal frozen stillness of the mountains. He feels his own existence suspended somewhere between these two realities, a participant in the immediate temporal needs of the community and a witness to the enduring, timeless presence of the Alpine landscape. The laundry cell serves as his anchor in this reality, a small, protected space where he can engage with the material world in a way that is both humble and significant. He thinks of the elderly brother in the library whose life is spent deciphering ancient weathered parchment and realizes that they are both engaged in a similar ministry, the preservation of order and the stewardship of the community's shared physical heritage. As the sun climbs higher, the temperature in the cell shifts, the warmth from the hearth beginning to permeate the space, creating a cozy, almost sanctuary-like environment. He begins to sort the next pile of laundry, a mix of small fine weave napkins and heavier wool blend blankets. Each item carries a history, a faint personal signature of the brother who used it. He touches the fabric with a sense of intimate knowledge, knowing exactly which brother prefers their pillows a certain way or which ones tend to be more careless with their daily items. This familiarity creates a deep, wordless bond. He feels that he knows his brothers better through the laundry than he ever could through conversation. He is the keeper of their secrets, the guardian of their comfort, and a silent partner in their journey toward the divine. The responsibility does not weigh upon him, rather it elevates him, giving him a sense of purpose that is as clear and bright as the light spilling across the table. He finds himself contemplating the nature of his own contentment. It is a quiet, steady state, far removed from the fleeting joys and sorrows of the world outside. It is a contentment born of repetition, of the beauty of a task well done, and of the profound, unshakable stability of his environment. He realizes that he no longer desires anything else. The mountains have stripped away the superfluous, leaving behind only what is essential: prayer, work, and the company of his brothers. He feels that he has reached a kind of clarity that few ever achieve, a state where the self is no longer a source of conflict but a clear, open channel for service. He is in the most fundamental sense a part of the abbey, as necessary and as unremarkable as the stone that forms the walls or the mortar that holds it together. The morning flows into the early afternoon with a fluid, seamless grace, his hands never faltering, his focus never wavering. The piles of folded pristine linens grow, a white architectural testament to his morning's labor. He feels a sense of quiet triumph, not a prideful one, but a deep, resonant satisfaction that the day's duty has been met with the fullness of his capability. He understands that the significance of his life is not in the accumulation of achievements or the pursuit of grand ambitions, but in the faithful daily repetition of the small essential things. He is a builder of peace, one fold at a time, one day at a time, in the quiet, secluded heart of the mountains. As the bell rings for the midday office, he sets his work aside, wipes his hands on his apron, and prepares to join his brothers, his mind quiet, his heart light, and his spirit perfectly, profoundly at ease, in the rhythm of the life he has chosen to lead. The transition into the late afternoon hours within the monastery is marked by a subtle, almost imperceptible shift in the quality of the light, as the sun begins its long, slow descent behind the jagged ramparts of the surrounding peaks. Inside the laundry cell, the golden intensity of the midday has softened into an amber, honey glow that seems to cling to the stone walls and the heavy wooden beams of the ceiling. The lay brother, now moving through the final stages of his daily work, finds himself in a state of quiet, meditative rhythm that transcends the physical effort of his labor. He is currently polishing the heavy iron press, his hands moving with a fluid, practiced grace that has been honed by thousands of repetitions. The scent of the charcoal from the hearth, mingled with the fresh, clean aroma of the lavender-scented linen, creates an atmosphere of deep restorative peace that settles into his very bones. He thinks of the upcoming evening prayer, the Vespers, and feels a ripple of quiet, joyful anticipation. This rhythm, the alternation between the labor of the hands and the labor of the soul, is the very heartbeat of his existence. He sees his work here, in this secluded, vaulted space, as the prologue to the more profound liturgical work he will perform in the chapel. By bringing order to the physical world, by ensuring that the simple necessary garments of his brothers are clean and ready for use, he is creating the space in which their spirits can focus entirely on the divine. It is a humble, necessary contribution, and he feels a deep, abiding gratitude for the role he has been given. He is not a person of great influence or wide-reaching power, but he is a man of significance within this small, holy, and devoted community. As he looks out the window at the valley below, now cloaked in the long, cool shadows of the approaching evening, he observes a lone mountain goat navigating the sheer, rocky cliffside with an ease and precision that is entirely natural, entirely unforced. He feels a kinship with the creature, both of them existing at the very edge of what is accessible and habitable, both of them finding their way through the wild, imposing and indifferent environment with a steady, quiet perseverance. The monastery, like the goat, has carved out a place of survival and beauty in the midst of the vast, harsh, and uncompromising peaks. He realizes that this is the essence of their life here, to witness the majesty of the creation while remaining anchored in the humble, necessary reality of human existence. They are the guardians of a small, quiet flame of faith in the heart of the vast natural wilderness. The final bundles of linen are gathered tied with simple sturdy twine and placed upon the shelves that line the back wall of the laundry room. The room is now empty of the chaos of the day's labor, clean, organized, and silent, a space that seems to breathe in the tranquil, dimming light. He takes a moment to stand in the center of the room, closing his eyes and allowing himself to fully inhabit the quiet he has helped to create. He is profoundly tired, but it is the good, healthy, and deeply satisfying fatigue of a day well spent, a day in which every action has been aligned with his purpose and his commitment. He feels a deep, abiding sense of belonging, a realization that he is exactly where he is meant to be, in the perfect, quiet, and meaningful intersection of his life and his vocation. He turns to the heavy iron-bound door and begins the process of closing down the laundry cell for the night. The latch clicks with a sound that is both final and protective. He steps out into the cloister, the stone floor cold beneath his sandals, and the cool, sharp air of the evening rushes in to meet him, clearing his mind and sharpening his focus. He walks toward the main abbey building, his footsteps echoing in the silence, his heart light and his spirit attuned to the deepening darkness. The mountains are now dark, imposing silhouettes against a sky of deep indigo velvet, and the first few stars are beginning to emerge, clear and piercing in the thinning air. He is ready for the final, concluding liturgy of the day, ready to offer the quiet, simple service of his presence to his brothers, and ready to find the rest that awaits him at the end of the long, beautiful, and profoundly rewarding cycle of the day. The transition into the night, the final shift of the monastic cycle, is marked by a profound descent into a silence so thick and pervasive that it feels like a physical weight against the skin. The lay brother walks along the cloister, his hand brushing against the cold, damp stone of the arches, his mind already detached from the mundane tasks of the laundry and centered on the impending beauty of the compline. The courtyard is now a place of long, sweeping shadows and the soft, silver light of the moon, which bathes the entire abbey in a pale, ethereal glow. Everything feels transformed, purified, and still. The mountain air is sharp and biting, a visceral reminder of their precarious, beautiful existence on this high, isolated shelf of the world. He stops for a moment by the central fountain, hearing the faint liquid music of the water against the basin, a sound that has echoed here for centuries, indifferent to the shifting tides of human history, a constant soothing companion to the prayers of the brothers. He thinks about the concept of time here. It is not the relentless ticking progression of the clock as it is in the valleys below, but a cyclical tidal process, a gentle rhythmic oscillation between work and prayer, between movement and stillness, between speaking and the profound absolute necessity of silence. His own life has become assimilated into this flow, his identity increasingly blurred with the larger collective purpose of the community. In the laundry room, he had felt the pulse of the physical life here. In the deepening night, he feels the pulse of the spiritual life, the subtle, enduring vibration of faith that sustains them all. He realizes that the two are inseparable, that the care of the linen is, in its own way, a preparation for the care of the soul. He is not a separate entity, he is an integral, vital component of this living, breathing organism of devotion. The chapel, when he enters, is a cavern of shadow, the only illumination coming from the steady, warm flicker of a few remaining candles near the altar. It is a space that feels both infinitely vast and intimately enclosed. a sanctuary built not just of stone, but of the collective resolve of the monks who have prayed here since the dawn of time. He takes his place, the wood of the store, cool and grounding beneath his hands, and waits in the expectant sacred stillness. When the chanting begins, it is not just a sound, it is an atmosphere, a low, vibrant frequency that seems to pull the very spirit out of the darkness and hold it suspended in the light of the melody. He joins in, his voice finding its place in the harmony, the vibrations echoing off the high stone vaulting and returning to him as a reaffirmation of his belonging. This is the moment of greatest clarity, as he sings the petty anxieties of the day, the concerns about the supplies, the physical tiredness in his muscles, the lingering memories of the world he left behind. All of these things are stripped away, rendered irrelevant by the sheer overwhelming beauty of the liturgy. He feels a sense of deep, unassailable peace, a realization that he has found a way to inhabit the truth of his own existence without the need for explanation or justification. He is a servant of the community, a brother among brothers, a human soul in the presence of the infinite. The chant deepens, the shadows seem to dance in rhythm, and for a few precious moments, the divide between the earthly and the divine feels completely bridged. When the service draws to its inevitable conclusion, the silence that follows is not a void but a fullness, a deep resonant peace that fills every corner of the chapel. He remains kneeling for a long time after the others have departed, absorbing the stillness, letting it wash over him until he feels as though he could remain here forever, caught in the suspension of this perfect holy moment. Eventually, however, he rises, his body feeling light and supple, and begins the slow, deliberate walk back to the dormitory. The path is familiar. The stones under his sandals are a known comforting reality, and he moves through the dark corridors with the confidence of a man who knows exactly who he is and where he is going. He enters his cell, the door closing with a soft final thud, and he prepares for the night, his heart overflowing with a quiet, enduring gratitude for the life that has been given to him. The day is done. The cycle is complete, and he is ready to surrender himself to the rest that will prepare him for the rebirth of the morning. The deep, undisturbed silence of the early hours before dawn is a palpable presence within the dormitory, a thick, cool atmosphere that seems to suspend time itself. The lay brother lies in the absolute darkness, his senses refined and heightened by the rhythm of the monastic life. He can hear the distant grinding murmur of the mountain glaciers, a sound so old and slow that it feels like the heartbeat of the earth, and the occasional sharp snap of the stone structure as the temperature shifts. He is not asleep, but he is in a state of profound restorative stillness, a wakeful rest, where the mind is unburdened by the requirements of the day. In this quiet, he finds a clarity that he rarely experiences in the waking hours, a sense of absolute, unwavering belonging. He is a part of the stone, a part of the altitude, a part of the quiet, intentional life that has been built here against the vast, indifferent wilderness. He recalls the events of the previous day not as a sequence of chores, but as a series of movements in a larger sacred dance. He sees the laundry room again, the brilliant golden shafts of sunlight, the steam from the copper vat, and the rhythmic smoothing motion of his hands over the linens. He understands now that his service was not merely about maintaining the cleanliness of the abbey, but about participating in the stewardship of the sacred. Each sheet he folded, each garment he repaired, was an act of preparation for the work of his brothers. This is the foundation upon which the community rests, the simple, humble recognition that all of their lives are interconnected, and that every contribution, no matter how small, is essential to the whole. This realization brings him a sense of profound, quiet joy, a feeling of deep-seated contentment that transcends the physical demands of his labor. As he drifts toward the deeper strata of sleep, his mind begins to expand and soften. He experiences the physical structure of the abbey not as a series of walls and corridors, but as a manifestation of a deeper spiritual reality. He feels the collective prayer of his brothers as a rising, shimmering energy, a light that permeates the stone and stonework, turning the entire monastery into a beacon of stillness in the dark, cold heart of the mountains. He imagines himself as a part of this light, a small dedicated flame in the vast, endless night. The sense of self continues to dissolve, merging with the rhythm of the abbey, the hum of the mountains, and the deep, abiding presence of the divine. He is no longer an individual, but a part of a larger, living, breathing story. His dreams, when they come, are not visual in the way of ordinary life. They are sensations of movement and harmony. He feels himself floating through the vaulted spaces of the chapel, his spirit ascending toward the high dark ceiling where the shadows reside. There is a sense of immense liberating freedom in this, a release from the gravity of his physical responsibilities. Yet, even in the dream, he remains anchored by the memory of his purpose. He sees the stacks of linens rising into the air, turning into white, shimmering clouds of purity that drift out through the windows and settle over the mountain passes, protecting the valley below. It is a comforting, expansive vision, one that tells him his work is not merely a task, but a contribution to the peace and the order of the world beyond the monastery walls. He is a guardian of silence, a quiet sentry standing watch in the heart of the peaks. He wakes momentarily to the sound of the wind, which has intensified, a howling, rhythmic presence that rattles the heavy wooden shutters of his cell. He reaches out a hand to touch the wall, the stone cold and solid under his palm, and he feels an immediate grounding connection. The world outside may be wild, untamed, and indifferent to human fate. But here, in the sanctuary, he has helped to maintain. Everything is held in a delicate, beautiful balance. The storm will pass, the sun will return, and he will rise to fulfill the cycle once more. There is no anxiety in this thought, only a calm, inevitable certainty. He turns on his side, pulls the wool blanket tighter, and allows himself to be pulled back down into the depths of sleep. The silence returns. The mountain holds its breath, and he is gone, surrendered to the quiet, dark heart of the night, waiting with the patient wisdom of his calling for the first faint golden sign of the coming dawn. He is ready to begin again to play his part in the quiet unfolding drama of the day, knowing that his life, however small, is a reflection of the infinite. The pre-dawn hour arrives with a surgical precision, slicing through the heavy velvet of the night with a thin, sharp blade of charcoal gray light that edges the jagged horizon of the Alps. Inside the dormitory, the lay brother is already awake, his eyes fixed on the ceiling where the shadows are beginning to stretch and thin, signaling the slow rebirth of the world. He lies in the familiar cold comfort of his cell, a space so sparse and functional that it invites no distraction, only a deepening of the soul's inward gaze. The silence is absolute, yet it is a textured silence, filled with the faint rhythmic sighs of the mountain wind and the settling of ancient stone foundations that have stood against the elements for centuries. He feels the weight of his own existence as a light, manageable thing, anchored firmly by the knowledge that the day ahead is already mapped out in the sacred, unchanging geometry of the monastic rule. There is no urgency here, no anxiety about the future, only a profound crystalline awareness of the present moment, a state of being that is both an achievement and a gift. As he rises, the straw of his mattress rustles, a dry, papery sound that seems amplified in the stillness. He moves through the darkness with the confidence of a man who knows every inch of his domain, his hand finding the wool of his habit, the leather of his belt, and the rough-hewn surface of the door handle, without hesitation. These are the tools of his vocation, the physical markers of his identity. And as he dons them, he feels the transition from the private realm of dreams to the communal realm of service. He steps into the corridor, the flagstones beneath his bare feet biting with the cold, a sharp sensory jolt that further clears the remnants of sleep from his mind. The abbey is still breathing in the long, slow rhythm of the night, but he can sense the awakening, the subtle shift as his brothers emerge from their own cells, a silent procession of shadows converging toward the chapel. The walk to the chapel is a meditative act. He passes by the high, narrow apertures in the wall that look out over the abyss of the valley, where the night is still clinging to the earth. The air here is thin and crisp, tasting of frozen pine and the distant metallic scent of snow-fed streams. He reaches the sanctuary, and the transition is total. The chapel is a place where the darkness is not an absence but a presence, a deep, resonant, and holy space that demands reverence. He takes his place in the stall, the cool, polished wood of the arms providing a steadying anchor, and waits. The first low notes of the pre-dawn office ripple through the space, not as a performance but as an exhale of the collective spirit. He joins the chant, his voice finding its pitch, and he feels the familiar resonant swell of the communal sound, filling the space, driving away the last vestiges of the night and replacing them with a luminous, crystalline clarity. As the prayers continue, the sky outside begins to shift from the deep, bruising purple of midnight to a soft, hesitant gold. He reflects on his purpose, the stewardship of the linen, and he sees it with new, sharpened eyes. It is not about the cleanliness of the cloth, but about the dignity of the person who wears it. By preparing these garments with care and reverence, he is affirming the humanity of his brothers, acknowledging that even in their pursuit of the divine, they are embodied, physical beings with needs that must be honored. It is a humble, necessary liturgy of the mundane. He finds that he is not just serving the community, he is learning from it, absorbing the lessons of patience, humility, and steadfastness that are woven into the very fabric of their lives. The realization brings a sense of deep, abiding satisfaction, a quiet inward warmth that keeps the chill of the morning air at bay. When the service concludes, the world is fully awake. The sun having crested the peaks and flooded the valley with a brilliant golden light that makes the frost-covered world look like a city of diamonds. He exits the chapel, his mind clear, his body ready for the work, and his spirit light. He walks toward the laundry wing, observing the subtle, beautiful details of the morning, the frost on the garden walls, the way the light glints off the icicles hanging from the roof, the quiet, rhythmic sounds of the abbey waking up. He is ready for the day. He reaches the door of the laundry, takes a deep, steadying breath, and steps inside. As he begins his tasks, a sudden unfamiliar sensation washes over him, a clarity so piercing it feels like a revelation. He looks at the linen in his hands and sees not just thread and fiber, but the interwoven threads of time, service, and eternity. He realizes that this moment right here is the apex of his life. He is no longer waiting for the next prayer or the next day. He is existing entirely within the infinite now. As the morning sun hits the stone floor, he catches a glimpse of his own shadow, and for a fleeting, transcendent heartbeat, he sees not a man, but the embodiment of the abbey's silent powers. The work will continue, the cycles will turn, but the seeker has finally found what he was looking for in the most unexpected of places. He has discovered that the infinite is contained within the finite, and the sacred is found within the simple, humble act of folding. He smiles, a quiet expression of absolute liberation, knowing he has finally transcended his own boundaries, becoming one with the stone, the light, and the eternal peace of the mountains. The story of his search ends here, for he has arrived at a destination that has no map, only the quiet, triumphant rhythm of a heart, finally perfectly at home.
Sleepy History Tales is created for relaxation, entertainment, and sleep purposes.
The stories shared on this channel are inspired by historical events, daily life, and real periods in history, but they may be simplified, adapted, or narrated in a calming way to enhance the listening experience. This content is not intended to be a precise academic or educational source.
While we aim to stay generally accurate, some details may be altered for storytelling flow and relaxation.
Please do not rely on this channel as a primary source for historical research or study.
By listening, you acknowledge that this content is designed to help you unwind, relax, and fall asleep. Thank you for your understanding and support.